The liar paradox presents a fascinating linguistic and philosophical puzzle that has captured the imagination of thinkers for centuries. At its core, the paradox is encapsulated in the simple yet perplexing statement, "This sentence is false." At first glance, it may seem like a straightforward declaration, but as we delve deeper, it raises profound questions about truth, language, and self-reference. To unravel this enigma, let us consider the implications of the statement. If the sentence, "This sentence is false," is indeed true, then according to what it asserts, it must be false. Yet, if we take the stance that it is false, then in that case, it must be true. This creates a loop of contradiction, as the sentence cannot coherently be defined as either true or false without leading to an inconsistency. Historically, the liar paradox has roots that stretch back to ancient Greece. The philosopher Epimenides, a Cretan, is famously quoted as saying, "All Cretans are liars." If we accept Epimenides as a Cretan and his statement as true, then it logically follows that he must be lying, which makes his statement false. This self-referential nature is akin to what we observe in the modern version of the paradox. The implications of the liar paradox extend beyond mere wordplay into the realms of logic and semantics. It challenges our understanding of how language functions and how truth claims operate. The paradox can be seen as a demonstration of the potential pitfalls of self-reference. When a sentence refers to itself, it can lead to contradictions that traditional logical frameworks struggle to accommodate. To further explore this concept, think about how language is constructed. Most sentences convey information clearly and can be classified as either true or false based on their content. For example, "The sky is blue" can be checked against reality, and it stands as true on a clear day. In contrast, self-referential statements, like the one found in the liar paradox, complicate our standard methods of truth evaluation. The uncertainty surrounding such statements reflects larger issues within epistemology, the study of knowledge. Various approaches have emerged in attempts to resolve the paradox. One possibility lies in adopting a hierarchical view of language, where statements about truth must be placed in different levels. According to this view, a statement at one level cannot meaningfully refer to its own truth status. Thus, the sentence, "This sentence is false," belongs to a level of discourse, where it cannot consistently assert truth about itself. Another intriguing method is the introduction of a type of logic called paraconsistent logic. This form of logic accepts contradictions as potentially true, allowing for a more flexible understanding of statements that seem to clash with standard binary logic. Within paraconsistent frameworks, a statement like the liar becomes less about steadfast classification and more about exploring the nuances of belief and assertion. Despite its challenges, the liar paradox also stimulates deeper philosophical discussions about language, truth, and representation. It compels us to think critically about how we communicate and categorize beliefs. In everyday life, we often encounter statements that might seem straightforward, but reveal complexity when examined closely. For instance, statements loaded with irony or sarcasm can obscure straightforward interpretations, inviting reflection on how intent shapes meaning. This paradox not only serves as a fascinating topic of philosophical inquiry, but also illustrates the intricate dance between language and thought. It encourages us to ponder the limitations of our logical systems and the potential for richer interpretations of the statements we make. Navigating such complexities can lead to a greater appreciation for the nuances of human communication, which often resists reduction to binary classification. As we further contemplate the liar paradox, we find it an inviting gateway into broader discussions on truth, belief, and the mechanics of understanding. It highlights the need for careful examination of the statements we encounter in the world around us. Language becomes a powerful tool for expressing complex ideas, but it also carries with it the potential for ambiguity and contradiction. In conclusion, the liar paradox is far more than an amusing riddle. It is a profound philosophical challenge that sheds light on the intricate interplay between language, logic, and truth. By engaging with the paradox, we not only sharpen our reasoning skills, but also cultivate an awareness of the complexities that underlie our everyday conversations. Each time we encounter a statement, we can reflect on its implications, the context in which it is spoken, and the intentions of its speaker. This curiosity opens the door to richer dialogue and a deeper understanding of the world as we continue to explore the layers of meaning that language presents. Schrödinger's cat is a fascinating thought experiment that embodies some of the more perplexing ideas of quantum mechanics. Imagine a scenario designed by physicist Erwin Schrödinger in 1935 to illustrate the peculiar nature of superposition, which is a fundamental principle in quantum physics. Picture a closed box. Within this box sits a cat, a radioactive atom, a Geiger counter, a vial of poison, and a hammer. The radioactive atom has a 50% chance of decaying within 1 hour. If the atom decays, the Geiger counter triggers the hammer to break the vial, releasing the poison and leading to the cat's demise. If the atom does not decay, the cat remains alive and well within the confines of the box. Now, this scenario poses a captivating question about reality. According to the laws of quantum mechanics, until someone opens the box to observe the contents, the cat can be thought of as existing in a state that is both alive and dead simultaneously. This notion challenges our classical understanding of reality, where we assume that entities have a definite state. In the quantum realm, particles exist in multiple states at once. This is where the concept of superposition comes into play. To comprehend this better, think about how the behavior of light can be paradoxical. Light can behave both as a wave and as a particle, depending on how it is measured or observed. Similarly, Schrödinger's cat illustrates how the very act of measurement affects a particle's state. Until it is observed, the cat's fate is intertwined in this quantum uncertainty, representing the dual possibilities. Imagining the world of quantum mechanics can feel akin to stepping into a dream where the rules of reality bend and twist. In this realm, particles such as electrons can exist in more than one place at the same time, as seen in the famous double-slit experiment. An electron fired at a barrier with 2 openings will create an interference pattern typical of waves when no one is watching, but when we measure which opening it goes through, it behaves like a particle, picking one path and eliminating this unique wave-like behavior. So why does Schrödinger's cat matter? It is not simply about a feline in a box. It serves as a metaphor for the wider implications of quantum mechanics in understanding the nature of reality itself. This thought experiment raises profound questions about observation and reality. It brings forth the idea that our perception heavily influences the fabric of reality, and this challenges a long-held belief that the universe exists independently of our observation. Consider the implications of this idea. In our everyday lives, we expect different outcomes based on our actions. We throw a ball, and it travels through the air to a catcher's glove. We observe the squirrel in the park, and we see it dart up a tree. However, in the quantum world, the rules shift dramatically. There are instances where an event does not have a determined outcome, until we take deliberate action to observe it. Some may find this uncomfortable, as it suggests a level of unpredictability in nature that contrasts sharply with our experiences, based in the macroscopic world. This parallel existence of possibilities also prompts philosophical explorations about free will, reality, and the interconnectedness of all things. Are we merely observers in a universe that exists only when we look at it? Or do our observations contribute to shaping the very nature of existence? Through Schrödinger's cat, we are nudged to reconsider not just what we know about physics, but about existence itself. The implications extend far beyond the experiment. They invite us to think critically about our understanding of consciousness, fate, and the universe. Just as light can exist in dual forms, so too can our understanding bridge the gap between observation and reality. The conundrum presented by Schrödinger's cat ignites curiosity and investigation into the world of quantum physics and its mysteries. Do we live in a universe rich with possibility and probability, waiting for an observer to collapse potentialities into reality? It encourages exploration into how quantum phenomenons influence everything from technology, like the development of quantum computers, to even more intricate philosophical inquiries about life and existence. Moreover, the experiment signifies the limits of intuition. While it makes sense in our macroscopic world to assume that the cat is either alive or dead, in the quantum realm, the possibilities are not so clear-cut. In challenging conventional thought, Schrödinger's cat opens a window into a universe that is far more intricate and mysterious than our senses alone can grasp. As you contemplate the thought experiment of Schrödinger's cat, let your mind wander through the questions it evokes. Reflect on the nature of reality, perception, and existence. Explore the boundaries of knowledge and immerse yourself in the mystery. The complexities of quantum mechanics reflect the depths of curiosity inherent in the human spirit, encouraging us to continuously ask and seek the answers that science and philosophy can offer. Ultimately, this thought experiment is a playful yet profound invitation to grapple with the unknown, allowing imaginative inquiry into the possibilities that our universe holds, urging us to uncover the layers hidden just beneath the surface of reality. In the world of logic and philosophy, there are many intriguing puzzles that challenge our understanding of truth and self-reference. One fascinating example is known as the Barber Paradox. This paradox invites us to explore the rather curious scenario involving a barber, a small town, and a simple yet profound question. Imagine a barber who operates in a quaint little town. This barber has a unique and specific rule. He shaves everyone who does not shave themselves. This simple proclamation presents an intriguing situation. At first glance, it seems clear-cut. The barber goes about his daily business, fulfilling his duty by providing shaves to all the townspeople who prefer not to shave themselves. However, the moment we consider the plight of the barber himself, things get infinitely more perplexing. Let's take a closer look at how this works. Picture the residents of the town. There are individuals who enjoy shaving daily, taking pride in their appearance, and others who dislike or simply do not shave themselves. In accordance with his rule, the barber dutifully shaves all those who do not engage in this personal grooming. This means that if someone opts for the aesthetics of not shaving, they will visit the barber for a nice trim. Now, here enters the twist. What about the barber? If he does not shave himself, he fits the criteria for receiving a shave from the barber. However, if the barber shaves himself, he no longer qualifies as someone who does not shave himself, meaning he wouldn't shave himself at all. This creates a logical conundrum, and therein lies the paradox. This situation sparks a thought-provoking question. If the barber shaves all those who do not shave themselves, does he shave himself? Should he proceed to shave himself, he breaks the rule of shaving only those who do not participate in this customary function. Conversely, if he refrains from shaving himself, it logically follows that he must shave himself, creating a contradiction. The paradox exemplifies a deeper issue in the realm of set theory and self-reference. It highlights how self-reference can create contradictions and challenges our understanding of concepts in set membership and categorization. It exposes the limitations of our logical frameworks in handling seemingly simple statements that lead to quite complicated conclusions. Philosophers and logicians have pondered over this riddle for centuries. The Barber Paradox is often connected to the broader discussions about the foundations of mathematics and logic. It invites us to consider how we define sets and categories, particularly those that include themselves. There are various interpretations and analyses of this paradox, triggering debates on whether it reveals flaws in set theory or simply sheds light on the complexities of language and logic. The implications of the Barber Paradox extend beyond mere amusement. They compel us to delve into discussions surrounding the nature of mathematics, the structure of logical systems, and even concepts found within computer science. For instance, the idea of self-reference appears not just in philosophical ponderings, but also in the design and operation of algorithms, programming languages, and artificial intelligence. To consider this paradox in everyday life leads us to fascinating discussions about identity and representation. It touches on how labels and categories can influence our understanding of individuals and their roles in society. Just as the barber's identity hinges on his actions, each of us navigates through layers of identity that are intricately tied to our behavior and the expectations of others. The Barber Paradox serves as a compelling entry point into the rich world of philosophical inquiry and logical exploration. It reminds us that even simple ideas can unravel into complex and sometimes baffling revelations about existence, thought, and the nature of reality itself. By engaging with such philosophical dilemmas, we cultivate our critical thinking skills, explore the depth of reasoning, and learn to appreciate the intricate tapestry of ideas that weave together the fabric of human understanding. In closing, the Barber Paradox is more than just a quirky riddle. It embodies the labyrinth of logic and self-reference that has captivated thinkers throughout history. By contemplating the delicate balance of rule and exception, we find ourselves reflecting on the nature of truth, identity, and what it means to define ourselves within the multifaceted constructs of society and logic. The Bootstrap Paradox is a fascinating and mind-bending concept in the realm of time travel, sparking a myriad of intriguing questions that challenge our understanding of causality and existence. Imagine a scenario where an object, let's say a mysterious book filled with knowledge about the future, somehow ends up in a time loop. This time loop creates a paradox, leading to the question, if the book came from the future, who wrote it in the first place? To explore this idea, visualize a young scientist in the not-so-distant future, passionately working on groundbreaking theories about time travel. After much research, they perfect a device capable of transporting objects through time. During one of their experiments, they mysteriously receive a package containing a book that details events yet to unfold, predictions of inventions, and insights into human behavior. The scientist is captivated by the book, as it holds the key to their future discoveries. Curious and driven, the scientist conducts extensive research on the book. They soon realize that the knowledge inside it is invaluable, guiding them toward innovations that will revolutionize technology and society. However, an unsettling realization dawns on them. The book contains no author. According to the details, the book appears to be a product of their own future, a work that could not have existed without their own discoveries initiated by the book itself. The crux of the Bootstrap Paradox emerges here. How did the book come into existence if the scientist never wrote it? In essence, it exists in a loop where it is a product of itself. The knowledge is passed through time, from the future back to the past, and then back to the future again. The moment the scientist first opens the book, they unwittingly catalyze a series of events that ultimately leads to the book being created. But the cycle raises deeply philosophical questions about authorship, ownership, and the nature of reality. Let's delve deeper into how this paradox might play out. After being inspired by the book, the scientist develops their time travel technology. Eager to explore its capabilities, they decide to send the book back to themselves at an earlier point in time, believing it will help guide their earlier self on the path to discovery. However, once again, this action sets off a loop without a clear origin. Since each time the book is sent back, it lacks a clear author to reference. Now consider another layer. Could the knowledge within the book be considered an independent entity, something that exists solely because of the cycle it is caught in? Imagine if additional error-free details about the future were included within this book, such as scientific theories, technologies, and methodologies that alter the course of history. Each reading of the book would inspire the scientist to innovate further, but the book itself does not derive from human creativity or experience. Rather, it simply reflects a timeline that is dependent on itself. This paradox reflects the complexities surrounding free will and determinism. If our choices are influenced by knowledge that could not exist without those choices being made, how can we regard the paths that led us to our decision? Are they truly ours, or mere products of a determined loop? The Bootstrap Paradox invites us to ponder the significance of fate versus free will in a universe where knowledge is sustained in a time loop. Furthermore, the Bootstrap Paradox resonates with themes found in modern storytelling, especially in science fiction. Films and books often explore similar ideas, presenting characters who travel through time, eventually working to change outcomes based on the knowledge they acquire from the future. A character might receive a fateful warning, setting them on a path designed to ensure specific events unfold, which perpetuates the very cycle they are trying to evade. To illustrate, think of a classic time travel scenario in movies where someone travels back to prevent a disaster. However, each attempt might ultimately lead to the realization that their interventions are what caused the events they were trying to change in the first place. Such narratives highlight not only the intricacies of time travel, but also frame a conversation about responsibility, choice, and the interconnectedness of events. The Bootstrap Paradox isn't limited to just the written word or narratives in movies. It finds applications and discussions in science, philosophy, and even art. Philosophers regularly engage with the implications of time travel on the nature of existence. They dissect the scenarios to unearth deeper truths about reality, while also challenging the very definition of creation and authorial intent. In conclusion, the Bootstrap Paradox deftly illustrates the intricate web of time, causality, and existence. The hypothetical scenarios encourage curiosity about the nature of reality, while prompting us to question the fundamental concepts of origin and authorship. Each loop creates a thought-provoking narrative, encouraging us to embark on an intellectual journey that spans time and existence. The paradox encapsulates the essence of time travel discussions, a unique and captivating intersection of creativity, knowledge, and philosophical exploration. The two envelopes paradox is a fascinating thought experiment that plays with our intuitions about probability, value, and decision-making. Imagine you have two envelopes in front of you, each containing a sum of money. One envelope has twice the amount of the other. You are allowed to select one envelope and keep its contents. After you make your choice, you are faced with the tempting option to switch to the other envelope. The intriguing part of this scenario lies in the reasoning behind the decision to swap, which leads to a paradox that challenges the way we think about probability. Let's break down the situation. You initially pick one envelope and see a certain amount of money inside. For example, suppose you open your first envelope and find $50. Now, you know that the other envelope contains either $25 or $100. The logic seems straightforward, yet it quickly becomes more complex. Let's assign some variables to clarify the situation. Assume the amount in your chosen envelope is represented as X. Consequently, the other envelope could either be worth 2xe or x2. In our previous example, X is $50, so the potential amounts in the other envelope would be either $100 or $25. The immediate thought process might suggest that switching is favorable, because the possibility of receiving a larger sum appears enticing. Now, let's calculate the expected value if you were to switch envelopes. There's a 50% chance that the unseen envelope has $100 and a 50% chance that it holds $25. If we calculate the expected value of the alternate envelope, we get expected value equals the probability of each scenario multiplied by its outcome. In this case, it breaks down to 0.5 times $100 plus 0.5 times $25. This calculates to a total expected value of $75. Since $75 is more than the $50 in your current envelope, the logic suggests it would be wise to switch. However, this reasoning can be applied repeatedly. If you approach the problem from the perspective of always seeking out the greater expected value, you find yourself in a perpetual cycle of moving from one envelope to the other, regardless of which one you initially chose. The paradox arises because each time you evaluate your options, the calculations push you toward switching. Yet this conclusion seems counterintuitive, since your initial choice was arbitrary, and it should not lead to an endless loop of swapping. Oddly enough, this thought experiment highlights a flaw in the reasoning, since it inadvertently suggests that one can continuously improve their choice by switching, which is simply not the case. The two envelopes paradox forces us to confront essential questions about rationality and the nature of expectation in decision-making. The underlying conflict is fascinating. On one hand, intuition pushes us towards switching due to the potential for greater gain, while on the other, logic suggests that our initial choice carries an equal probability of being correct, regardless of the subsequent evaluations we perform. As you think about the paradox, it's useful to reflect on similar real-life situations. Consider investing money, for example. Imagine deciding whether to keep your initial investment or switch to a different opportunity. The calculations might lead you to think there's always a more lucrative alternative, continually prompting you to change your strategy. Yet, much like the paradox, such decisions hinge significantly on the information available and the assumptions being made. We see this root of contradiction play out in various scenarios across different fields. For instance, in game theory and economics, the implications of such paradoxical reasoning can influence the outcome of competitive scenarios. Decision-making often involves uncertainties and probabilities, where choices may lead to conflicting strategies due to flawed reasoning or cognitive biases. The allure of the two envelopes paradox lies in its simplicity, yet the complexity of thought it provokes extends far beyond mere mathematical reasoning. People find themselves entangled in patterns of thinking that can lead to contrived and seemingly nonsensical solutions. What seems like an obvious opportunity for gain can often throw us into a whirlwind of confusion and contradiction. To wrap up this exploration of the two envelopes paradox, it's important to remember that while mathematics and probability give us powerful tools for analysis, they do not always align neatly with our intuitive decision-making processes. Encountering thought experiments like this can be a delightful exercise in critical thinking. They encourage us to question our assumptions, refine our reasoning abilities, and ultimately recognize the beautifully intricate nature of chance and choice in the world around us. The Ship of Theseus is a fascinating thought experiment that dives deep into the nature of identity and change. Imagine a grand ship, perhaps one that once sailed the seas of ancient Greece, a vessel of legend and adventure. As time goes by, this ship encounters the elements, the relentless waves, the biting wind, and the corrosive salt of the sea. Gradually, it becomes necessary to replace its parts. First, a worn-out plank is replaced because it had rotted away after years of being exposed to the ocean. Next, the sails, once vibrant and strong, fray and tear, calling for a fresh, sturdy cloth to take their place. One by one, components like the mast, the rudder, and the hull are swapped for new ones, each one a testament to the ship's enduring journey. Now, picture these parts lying in a shipyard. Every plank removed represents stories, memories, and experiences. The salty sea spray, and the songs of sailors who once traversed great oceans. It raises a significant question. Is the ship that sails the harbor still the same ship after all its original components have been replaced? Philosophers and thinkers have pondered this intricate question for centuries, leading us into a deeper exploration of what it means to be the same. Is it the physical matter that defines identity? Or is it the essence, the history, the experiences that accumulate over time? As we consider the Ship of Theseus, we find ourselves at a crossroads between our understanding of physical continuity and personal identity. To illustrate this further, imagine a painter who takes an old canvas and meticulously refines it over the years. Each brushstroke may alter the painting, adding new colors and forms. After several decades, the original canvas may be entirely altered. If one were to ask, is this still the same painting? It unfolds yet another layer of the debate surrounding identity. The implications extend beyond ships and paintings. Humans, too, experience similar transformation. Over time, our cells regenerate. Every 7 to 10 years, nearly all the cells in our body have been replaced. Yet, the memories we cherish and the experiences that shape our thoughts and emotions remain distinct to us. So, as we change physically, do we also redefine our identity? Even more intriguing is the question of intention behind these changes. Each replaced part of the Ship of Theseus was made with a purpose, to maintain its function as a vessel. It wasn't dismantled carelessly, but rather with the intention of preserving its essence and utility. Similarly, in life, experiences we choose to embrace or let go of shape our identities deliberately. From another perspective, suppose someone were to collect the original pieces of the Ship of Theseus and reconstruct them meticulously. Would this be a new ship, or would it somehow hold the spirit of the original? This raises conversations about authenticity and originality that resonate in many fields, from art to technology. The advancements in robotics and artificial intelligence bring a modern twist to the Ship of Theseus discussion. For instance, if a robot upgrades its components and software continuously, adapting and learning new capabilities, at what point does it become an entirely different entity? Or consider virtual identities in the online world. If someone updates their profile, avatar, and digital interactions over time, do they still remain the same person from a digital perspective? Exploring these ideas invites us to reflect on our own lives. As we transition through various stages and experiences, we continuously evolve. The interests we had as children can fade, while new passions emerge. Our values might shift as we navigate relationships and life lessons. Yet, at our core, many believe that a thread of continuity persists, connecting the past with the present. In schools and communities, we often see the idea of the Ship of Theseus resonate. Through restorations of historic buildings or revivals of traditions, the essence of what once was is maintained, albeit transformed. Yet, each of these initiatives invites the question of authenticity. Is the newly restored structure still a representation of its original form, or has it become something entirely new? As we delve deeper into the Ship of Theseus, we learn that the interplay of identity, change, and continuity influences not just individual lives, but entire cultures and societies. Life is a tapestry woven with threads of history and change, constantly evolving while maintaining a sense of connection to what came before. Ultimately, the Ship of Theseus serves as a profound metaphor, highlighting the complexities of identity. It beckons us to explore the core of what defines us and challenges us to embrace change as a natural part of existence. Whether a ship, a painting, a human, or a community, the journey through transformation invites reflection on who we are at any given moment. And in that journey, perhaps the essence of identity lies not solely in holding on to the past, but in celebrating the continuous process of becoming. The Heap Paradox, also known as the Sorites Paradox, opens up a fascinating discussion on the nature of vague terms and how we categorize the world around us. At its core, the paradox questions our understanding of when a collection reaches the status of a heap. Imagine a single grain of sand. Alone, it does not embody what we would consider a heap. Now, if we add another grain, is it any more of a heap? The answer seems elusive. If we continue to add grains, at what exact point do we declare that we have a heap? Philosophers have pondered this question for centuries, highlighting how our language and concepts can lead to seemingly absurd conclusions. As we add one grain after another, it seems logical to argue that at some point, 2 grains become a pile, 3 become a small mound, and eventually, we reach what we perceive as a heap. However, pinpointing the moment when this transition occurs is perplexing. This phenomenon raises significant implications not only in philosophy, but also in logic, cognitive science, and linguistics. Consider the scenario of a pile of leaves in autumn. You may start with a single leaf on the ground, an insignificant object by itself. As you add more leaves, they begin to accumulate, and soon you have a small stack. Continue adding, and suddenly you have a noticeably large heap. Yet there is no clear line where the leaves transform from a casual collection to a defined heap. The ambiguity in language plays a crucial role here. One way to explore the Sorites paradox is through the concept of vagueness. Vagueness occurs when terms do not have precise boundaries or limits. For instance, Think about colors. A single red berry is just that, a berry. But when you add multiple berries, they begin to take on the appearance of a collection of red objects. Yet, there remains a subtle gradient in color. What if we introduce a green berry into the mix? At what point does ambiguity set in regarding the collective color? To further illustrate this, let us contemplate the idea of hair. Picture a perfectly bald head. Now, consider adding a single strand of hair. Initially, it remains bald. Add another strand, and maybe now it's thin-haired, but still bald in everyday conversation. Continue to add strands, and we reach a threshold where we might call it having hair. Similarly to our heap of sand, the transition point regarding what constitutes being bald or having hair is nebulous and subject to interpretation. The Heap paradox forces us to confront the limitations of our categorical logic. We may think we can establish firm classifications based on tangible objects or concepts, but experiences reveal that language and perception often escape such rigid definitions. Our understanding is woven with nuances, leading to questions about certainty, belief, and how we perceive the world. In many real-world applications, this paradox invites deeper understanding and discussion. For instance, in law, how do we define when something is considered a crime? In health, when do we determine if someone is overweight? Each scenario is steeped in subjective interpretation, and it becomes clear that our definitions can be inherently flawed or insufficient. Another fascinating aspect of the Heap paradox lies in its influence on psychology. Research into human cognition shows that we often categorize information based on vague criteria, facilitating ease of processing without demanding precision. Our brains create mental shortcuts, and in doing so, we might overlook potential inconsistencies. By acknowledging the role of vagueness in our thought processes, we can acquire a greater understanding of how we categorize our experiences in a world that often defies strict definition. As we examine the implications of the Heap paradox, we are reminded that language is not just a system of signs, but a living, breathing entity. It adapts, changes, and often eludes straightforwardness. Understanding these complexities can enrich our perspective and encourage more fruitful discussions about the constructs we use in everyday life. Closing the loop on the Heap paradox, one might contemplate its relevance in various aspects of existence, from the philosophical to the practical. It serves as a gentle reminder that while we strive for clarity in our communication and definitions, we must also accept that some concepts will always reside in gray areas. By embracing this uncertainty, we open ourselves to a broader understanding of both the universe and our own cognition. This exploration of vagueness holds the potential for richer conversations and deeper insights into human nature, knowledge, and the intricacies of the world around us. As we navigate through life, let's remember that the subtlety of our language and thought is not a limitation, but a gateway to diverse interpretations and understanding. It is through grappling with these complexities that we can appreciate the richness of our experiences and the significance of the seemingly simple questions life presents to us. Ultimately, the Heap paradox invites us to consider not just the objects we observe, but also the meanings we attach to them and how those meanings shape our understanding of the world. Once upon a time, in the realm of philosophical puzzles, there exists a thought-provoking scenario known as the unexpected hanging paradox. Imagine a prisoner who has been sentenced to death by hanging. The judge, wanting to create an element of surprise, declares that the execution will take place on a weekday, but will come as a surprise to the prisoner. The execution could occur on any day from Monday through Friday, but the prisoner will not know which day it will be until the morning of the execution itself. At first glance, this seems straightforward. The prisoner, however, is a logically astute individual, and he begins to unravel the implications of this announcement. If we think about the situation, can we truly say he will be surprised? The prisoner starts his deduction by eliminating days based on his perception of what surprise means. It quickly becomes clear that if the execution were to happen on Friday, the prisoner would expect it to occur. After all, if he has not been hanged by Thursday night, Friday would be his last possible day. Realizing this, he concludes that Friday is not a viable option if the hanging is to remain a surprise. Moving back to Thursday, the prisoner thinks similarly. If he reaches Thursday without having been executed, he can safely deduce that Friday is no longer an option. This leads him to believe that Thursday cannot be a surprise either, as he would have already eliminated any possibility of an unexpected event given the progression of the week. By using this form of logical deduction, he discards Thursday, as anticipation would certainly be at its peak. Following this pattern, the prisoner considers Wednesday. By the time he arrives at Wednesday, based on the same reasoning, he realizes that if he has made it through Tuesday without an execution, then Wednesday is also ruled out, because the only remaining option would offer no genuine surprise. This reasoning continues to spiral. Each day of the week, Monday through Thursday, falls victim to the prisoner's deductions, leaving him to conclude that there is no day in which the hanging could occur without prior anticipation or reasoning leading up to it. Such logical deductions might leave the prisoner with an overwhelming conviction that he simply cannot be executed at all. He feels a sense of assurance. However, the twist comes to light. The guards, having failed to take the prisoner's reasoning into account, choose the following Wednesday as the day of execution. On that fateful morning, the prisoner wakes up, blissfully unaware of the impending fate that awaits him, and experiences true shock and surprise upon learning of his execution. This paradox poses many intriguing questions about the nature of knowledge, certainty, and surprise itself. It invites us to reflect on the very essence of logical reasoning and how it intersects with human experience. How can something seem completely rational and yet lead to an unexpected outcome? The prisoner utilized his intellect and deduction to navigate a situation that ultimately didn't account for human unpredictability and the nature of surprise. In life, we often find ourselves in situations where our expectations clash with reality. This paradox beautifully illustrates how complex and layered our understanding can be. It reminds us that there are components of existence that may elude our logical grasp. Delightful moments of surprise often crop up when we least expect them, challenging our preconceived notions about certainty and planning. The unexpected hanging paradox serves as a metaphor for many instances in life. Just as the prisoner felt secure in his reasoning, we too develop expectations and safely predict the outcomes of various scenarios. Yet life, in its whimsical nature, often challenges those predictions, resulting in experiences that are unexpected and profound. This conundrum encourages a deeper exploration of what we think we know. It speaks to the broader themes of perception versus reality, knowledge versus ignorance. Sometimes, in trying to apply logic to human experiences, we can unintentionally undermine the very essence of those experiences. The paradox serves as a reminder that not all questions have clear answers, and some things are inherently unpredictable. As we engage with theoretical puzzles like this, we find ourselves pondering broader questions about fate, free will, and the limits of human understanding. The unexpected hanging paradox captures the imagination and prompts us to consider how perceptions can be deceptive. The allure of surprise, after all, often lies in moments unpredicted, and it is within these moments that the beauty of life often thrives. Through contemplation of such intriguing paradoxes, we can expand our cognitive horizons and delve into the mysteries that lie at the intersection of logic and the unpredictable nature of existence. Whether or not we can predict outcomes may often be irrelevant in the face of the surprises that life has in store, reminding us to remain open to the possibilities that each new day can bring. In conclusion, the paradox not only sharpens our logical thinking, but also enriches our experience of the complex tapestry that is human life. Imagine a world where time travel is not just the stuff of science fiction, but a reality. The concept of traveling backward in time opens up a myriad of questions and paradoxes, one of the most fascinating being the Grandfather Paradox. This paradox highlights the complexities and contradictions that arise from the idea of time travel. Picture this scenario. A man decides to travel back in time to meet his grandfather when he was a young man. Excitedly, he imagines the profound conversations they could have, the stories of the past he could uncover. But the man harbors an even bolder plan. He wants to intervene in a key moment in his grandfather's life, believing that by doing so, he can create a better future for his family. Now, let's say that in his youthful enthusiasm, he accidentally prevents his grandfather from meeting his grandmother. If they never meet, then their union never occurs, and consequently, the man's existence becomes impossible. This is where the paradox begins to unfold. If the man never existed, then how could he have traveled back in time in the first place to alter the past? This scenario raises deep philosophical questions. What if the traveler manages to prevent a pivotal event that leads to his own birth? This creates a rich tapestry of what-ifs that highlights the complicated nature of time and causality. Such puzzles force us to confront the very nature of our timelines and the sequences that govern them. Another angle to consider is the butterfly effect. This concept, popularized in chaos theory, suggests that small changes in a complex system can lead to significant and unforeseen consequences. In our time travel scenario, even minor alterations made during the visit to the past could lead to an entirely different present. For instance, if our traveler simply bumped into his grandfather, that small interaction could lead to an entirely altered pathway of events. The impact of one small change could ripple through time, resulting in any number of futures. The Grandfather Paradox has inspired numerous stories across literature and cinema. Think about how these creative works explore the repercussions of changing past events. Movies often depict characters wrestling with the knowledge of their own fates, giving the audience a taste of the emotional gravity associated with these narratives. As you reflect on these ideas, consider that we often view time as a linear progression, a neat sequence from past to present to future. But what if time does not flow in a single direction? Some theories propose that all moments in time exist simultaneously, suggesting that altering the past may create an alternate timeline rather than erase the original one. In this scenario, the man who traveled back might create a new reality in which he never exists, while the original timeline remains unchanged. This opens the door to the idea of parallel universes, where multiple versions of events coexist. The Grandfather Paradox invites us to ponder not just the mechanics of time travel, but our understanding of destiny and free will. If changing the past is firmly within our grasp, do we possess the right to alter the lives of others, even if our intentions are noble? The ethical implications become profound as we consider the potential consequences of our actions through time. Moreover, this paradox highlights the fragility of life itself. Every moment we experience is a result of countless decisions made by those before us. Consider how the simple existence of a particular place or person can dramatically alter the course of history. Each human life is interwoven with the tapestry of time, as we are all part of a larger narrative that transcends individual experiences. In exploring this fascinating paradox, we are reminded of the mysteries of the universe and the limits of human understanding. The Grandfather Paradox serves as a metaphor for the choices we make in our lives, emphasizing the weight of our decisions and their far-reaching impacts. Perhaps most intriguingly, the concept of the Grandfather Paradox pulls us into a deeper reflection on our relationship with time itself. It encourages us to think about how we view our pasts and presents, and how we can shape our futures. Every choice we make, even the smallest, contributes to the intricate web of existence, a web that binds us all together across the fabric of time. Ultimately, the Grandfather Paradox challenges our perceptions of reality and inspires a sense of wonder. As we delve into the realms of time travel and the consequences it could entail, we find ourselves at the intersection of philosophy, science, and imagination. So, let your mind wander through the realms of possibility and embrace the mysteries that the concept of time travel presents. The journey through time is not just an adventure through history, but an exploration of the essence of existence itself. The world of logic and philosophy is filled with fascinating ideas that challenge our thinking. One such concept is known as the Paradox of the Ravens, or Hempel's Paradox, which presents an intriguing exploration of evidence and inference. Imagine a simple premise: all ravens are black. This statement might seem straightforward, and it leads us to expect that if we observe a raven and it is black, we have confirmation of the statement. For instance, if you see a raven perched on a branch, you take note of its sleek black feathers, and that evidence appears to support the idea that all ravens share this characteristic. This is what we expect, and it fits nicely within our understanding. However, the paradox emerges when we consider what else might count as evidence for the claim that all ravens are black. According to a principle in logic known as the principle of confirmation, any observation that is consistent with a hypothesis should also count as evidence for that hypothesis. Therefore, it would follow that observing non-black objects, such as a green apple or a yellow banana, could also provide support for the hypothesis that all ravens are black. At first, this feels counterintuitive. How could witnessing a green apple contribute to our understanding of ravens? They seem completely unrelated. Yet according to the logic of confirmation, the absence of black objects in our observations may bolster our belief about ravens. If you see numerous non-black items, it suggests that those objects are not ravens, which indirectly leads us to reinforce the idea that the birds we are interested in remain black. This leads to a deeper question about what constitutes evidence and how we form beliefs. It raises a compelling discussion around how our observations shape our understanding of the world. For example, imagine you are in a vibrant orchard bursting with colors. Surrounded by greens, reds, and yellows, you notice the absence of black items. Each time you pick a bright fruit, it adds to your growing collection of evidence that does not contradict our hypothesis about ravens, but rather seems to reinforce it. The paradox of the ravens invites us to consider the complexities of confirmation theory. While it teaches a lesson in logic, it also evokes curiosity about the nature of our observations. It encourages us to think critically about the information we consume and how it influences our conclusions. This paradox does not demand that we abandon our understanding of ravens or that we reject our observations. Rather, it compels us to recognize the nuanced relationships between evidence and belief. One way to further explore this paradox is to consider how we might encounter other forms of evidence that affirm or challenge our assumptions, leading us to expand our understanding completely. A classic example is that of a raven that we see flying against a vast blue sky. The black bird clearly stands out, and our initial thought is one of alignment with the hypothesis. However, when we steered our focus to the sky itself, abundant with clouds, hints of sunset, and the distant shapes of their shadows, we might start questioning. What if a raven of a different color exists? What if conditions we do not observe might lead to different conclusions? This philosophical reflection transcends simple color observations or the existence of certain objects. It broadens our perspective to consider how our beliefs might be flawed or how they could benefit from further evidence and exploration. In examining the bounding nature of our perceptions, we can gain insights into the limitations of our reasoning and thought processes. The paradox of the ravens ultimately spins a web of inquiry. It draws us in to test our reasoning skills and holds a mirror to our methods of confirmation. As we navigate through the diverse landscape of evidence, we often realize how interconnected various pieces of knowledge can be. Each observation serves as a thread in the greater fabric of understanding. As we reflect upon this puzzle, let us embrace the complexity presented by Hempel's paradox. Instead of falling into the trap of rigid beliefs, we can harness the beauty of curiosity, welcoming diverse perspectives, and the unexpected connections that arise on our journey through knowledge. Each observation we make, whether it aligns with our expectations or surprises us, can illuminate new paths and deepen our understanding of the vast and intricate world around us. While the paradox initially seems perplexing, it ultimately cultivates an appreciation for exploration and inquiry, reminding us that the universe is an ever-unfolding tapestry of phenomena waiting for us to discover. In the grand scheme, we see how important it is to remain open-minded and adaptable in the search for truth as we continue our intellectual journey, drawing connections that enhance our comprehension of reality. Thus, the paradox of the ravens serves as a profound illustration of the delicate balance between observation and inference. It encourages us to ponder what we accept as evidence and challenges us to seek deeper truths in our specimens of inquiry. Whether we are pondering the colors of birds or contemplating the vastness of the universe, every moment presents an opportunity to expand our horizons towards understanding. Imagine a race between two unlikely competitors: Achilles, the swift Greek hero known for his speed and prowess, and a tortoise recognized for its leisurely pace. In this thought-provoking scenario, Zeno of Elea, a philosopher from ancient Greece, presents a paradox that challenges our understanding of motion and time. In this race, Achilles allows the tortoise a head start. Let's say the tortoise moves ahead by 10 paces, while Achilles begins from the starting point. Logically, one would think that Achilles, with his remarkable speed, can easily cover that distance and surpass the tortoise. However, Zeno breaks it down into a series of steps that seem perplexing at first glance. As Achilles runs towards the tortoise's starting point, he covers the 10 paces. However, during this time, the tortoise moves forward too, albeit a much shorter distance. Assuming the tortoise progresses at 1 pace forward By the time Achilles reaches the starting point of the tortoise has moved slightly ahead. At this point, Achilles closes the gap, but the tortoise has moved again, creating yet another distance to cover. Let's illustrate this further. When Achilles reaches the point where the tortoise started its journey, the tortoise has moved to a new position, say 1 pace ahead. Now, Achilles races to that new position. In the time it takes him to reach there, the tortoise has inched forward yet again, moving maybe half a pace ahead. Here's where it gets intriguing. Each time Achilles reaches a point where the tortoise was, the tortoise has made a tiny advancement, perpetually moving just ahead. This sequence of events generates an infinite number of steps Achilles must complete to actually catch up to the tortoise. This paradox presents a compelling argument regarding the concept of motion. It suggests that motion consists of an infinite number of points in time and space. Each action seems to be divided into smaller fragments infinitely. From the perspective of classical mathematics, one might wonder how we can ever traverse these infinite distances or moments in time. The beauty of Zeno's paradox lies not only in its mathematical implications, but also in what it reveals about our perceptions of time and space. It compels us to think about the nature of movement itself. Is movement merely a series of infinitesimal steps? How do we reconcile the intuitive understanding of speed and distance with the philosophical implications of infinity? To help grasp this idea, consider the following. Picture yourself walking down a long hallway toward a door. Each step you take can be further divided into shorter steps. Reaching the halfway mark means you still have another half to cover. However, by continually having the distance, it seems you will never quite reach the door, even though in practical terms, you know you will pass through it eventually. Zeno's Achilles and the tortoise is not just a quirky race. Rather, it serves as a deep philosophical inquiry into the fabric of reality and how we experience it. It encourages us to ponder our understanding of the world around us. What does it really mean to move or to catch up with something? What does the concept of time truly signify in our daily lives? Maybe, at its heart, this paradox highlights that there are layers to every challenge we face, whether they're mundane or monumental. Each step toward a goal may be fraught with seemingly insurmountable distance. Yet, it's in recognizing the journey itself and appreciating the small victories that we find meaning. As we think about Achilles and the tortoise, we are invited to embrace the complexities of our pursuits. Instead of fixating solely on the finish line, we can relish the journey's unfolding. Each moment of progress adds depth to our experience, making every step a vital part of our story. In closing, Zeno's paradox serves not only as a mathematical puzzle, but also as a philosophical reflection on movement, time, and the nature of existence itself. It highlights how our perceptions of achievement, distance, and motion can be both intricate and enlightening as we navigate the world around us. The tale of Achilles and the tortoise reminds us that every journey is an adventure with endless lessons to discover along the way. The Omnipotence Paradox presents a fascinating question that has intrigued philosophers, theologians, and the curious minds of many for centuries. At the core of this paradox lies the nature of omnipotence, the quality of having unlimited power. We often celebrate the idea of an omnipotent being, typically represented by God, capable of accomplishing anything within the scope of existence. However, the questions surrounding this omnipotence invite deeper reflection. Consider, for example, the famous thought experiment. Can an omnipotent being create a stone so heavy that even they cannot lift it? At first glance, This scenario seems simple, yet it uncovers nuanced challenges within the concept of limitless power. If we say yes, that the being can create such a stone, then it introduces a contradiction. By being unable to lift the stone, the being would not be omnipotent, as there exists an action they cannot perform. On the other hand, if the answer is no, then it suggests that the being is not capable of creating the stone, thus again calling into question the notion of omnipotence. This paradox serves as a bridge to explore the boundaries of power and the definitions we attribute to it. Delving deeper, one might ponder the implications of defining omnipotence. Many argue that true omnipotence does not simply mean the ability to perform any action at all, but rather the capability to act in accordance with the nature of the being itself. Hence, we revisit the characteristics of the imaginary omnipotent being. A truly omnipotent being would not create a stone they cannot lift, because that action contradicts their own nature of being all-powerful. As we analyze these ideas, it becomes clear that the paradox is not easily resolved. Various philosophical perspectives emerge to tackle the question. One argument posits that omnipotence encompasses the ability to do all that is logically possible. This assertion leads us to consider the nature of logic itself. For instance, would the act of creating a stone too heavy to lift not fall into the category of creating a logical impossibility? Exploring this further, we see how concepts of power intertwine with concepts of logic and existence. Beneath this philosophical inquiry, we can also observe implications for theistic beliefs. Many religious traditions present deities that are omnipotent yet encourage rational consistency in their actions. Therefore, the idea that an omnipotent being could create such a stone becomes more than a philosophical puzzle. It challenges how we understand divinity and the world around us. Furthermore, similar paradoxes echo throughout the realms of philosophy and theology. The Omnipotence Paradox stimulates discussions around free will. If an omnipotent being can dictate every aspect of existence, does that leave room for human agency? This connection reveals even more layers, prompting further questions about moral responsibility and the choices individuals make in their lives. Additionally, other paradoxes, like the problem of evil, provoke contemplation on the nature of omnipotence. If an all-powerful being exists, why does evil persist in the world? Each of these thoughts not only reflects on the nuances of divine power, but also influences personal beliefs, ethics, and worldview. This fascinating inquiry into the nature of omnipotence has not led to easy conclusions, but instead encourages ongoing dialogue. Thought experiments like the Omnipotence Paradox serve as valuable tools for philosophical exploration, inviting us to question our assumptions and beliefs. They illuminate the complexities that accompany discussions of power, existence, and logic, guiding us on a reflective journey. In summary, the Omnipotence Paradox encapsulates a profound intersection of philosophy and theology, posing questions that challenge our understanding. The debate surrounding whether an omnipotent being can create a stone so heavy they cannot lift it leads to deeper inquiries about the essence of power and logical consistency. Through this exploration, we glimpse broader ideas surrounding free will, morality, and personal beliefs. As we ponder these thoughts, we engage in an enriching conversation that reflects our desire to make sense of existence and the forces that govern it, encouraging continuous exploration and reflection. In the realm of philosophical discussions and ethical debates, the concept of tolerance stands out as a pillar of democratic societies. Tolerance, in its essence, embodies the idea of accepting and respecting differing views beliefs, and practices. It promotes coexistence and harmony among diverse groups. However, this beautiful principle carries with it an intricate dilemma known as the paradox of tolerance. The paradox of tolerance suggests that if a society is open to tolerating everything without limit, it may one day find itself allowing intolerance to rise unchecked. In simple terms, if we tolerate those who do not believe in tolerance, we risk undermining the very foundation that enables us to accept differing views. The complexities of this idea draw us into a deeper exploration of core values and the boundaries of acceptance in any society. Let's consider a vivid scenario to illustrate this paradox. Imagine a vibrant community where people from various backgrounds, cultures, and beliefs coexist. This community thrives on the idea of respecting and accommodating one another. Yet, within this community, there are individuals who believe that only their views should prevail, dismissing the rights and existence of others. If the society remains indefinitely tolerant of these intolerant views, it could pave the way for a culture that suppresses dissenting voices. Over time, the very diversity that once flourished may begin to fade away, leaving the community in a state of uniformity, driven by intolerance. This dangerous trade-off can be seen in various historical contexts. In the early days of democracy, many nations embraced a broad concept of tolerance, welcoming differing ideologies and practices. Yet, as certain intolerant ideologies began to spread unchecked, societies faced significant backlash. For instance, during the rise of totalitarian regimes in the 20th century, many democratic nations struggled with how to respond to individuals and groups that sought to dismantle freedom and autonomy. The challenge became evident. How do you remain tolerant without enabling those who would exploit that tolerance for malicious ends? Philosopher Karl Popper famously articulated this dilemma in his work, suggesting that unlimited tolerance may lead to the end of tolerance itself. If society tolerates the intolerant, his argument emphasizes that it's essential for a peaceful society to establish boundaries, healthy limits, against those who threaten the fabric of tolerance. This doesn't imply the eradication of opposing views, but rather the recognition that some ideologies can lead to harm and should thus be challenged and restrained. Another example can be drawn from social media dynamics in contemporary society. Platforms initially aimed to connect users and foster dialogue have occasionally facilitated the spread of hate speech and extremist views. A key issue is the fine line these platforms must navigate. How do they maintain a space for free expression while also protecting users from harmful rhetoric? The push for unlimited freedom of speech without moderation has, in some cases, resulted in echo chambers that promote intolerance and divisive narratives. Understanding the paradox of tolerance compels us to reflect on our values and the concept of community. It prompts the question of how to engage with diversity constructively. Initiatives that encourage dialogue, education, and critical engagement can cultivate a culture that appreciates differing perspectives, while guarding against those that seek to exploit openness. The challenge lies in fostering an environment that encourages robust debate without crossing into harmful intolerance. This paradox serves as a reminder that tolerance is not merely a passive acceptance of all views, but an active engagement with the principles that underpin a harmonious society. It calls for individuals and communities to develop a nuanced understanding of when to extend tolerance and when to draw the line. In essence, true tolerance requires vigilance and discernment. Engaging in this conversation invites us to explore the core of our beliefs and to hold discussions that encourage critical thinking. How does one balance respect for diversity with the imperative to stand against harm? The answer is not straightforward and invites numerous opinions and perspectives, reflecting the rich diversity of human thought and experience. Ultimately, the paradox of tolerance nudges us toward a deeper understanding of our shared humanity. It encourages ongoing reflection about our responsibilities to one another in a complex world. By considering the implications of our tolerance, we can strive to uphold a society that not only cherishes freedom and diversity, but also safeguards the principles that ensure these ideals can thrive in a supportive, inclusive environment. As we contemplate these ideas, we recognize the importance of fostering an open mindset, one that promotes respectful discourse while safeguarding the values that make our communities vibrant and dynamic. Embracing this challenge with compassion and understanding will allow us to navigate the delicate balance of tolerance in a way that honors all voices while ensuring the well-being of the whole. The lottery paradox presents an intriguing exploration of probability, belief, and the nature of luck. At first glance, buying a lottery ticket seems like a matter of pure chance, where the odds of winning are tremendously low. This paradox invites us into a world of statistics and human nature, where logic and emotion often clash. Consider this: when you buy a lottery ticket, you are fully aware of the overwhelming odds against winning. For example, in many lotteries, winning the jackpot could mean competing against millions of other hopeful ticket holders. The odds can often feel insurmountable, like throwing a single pebble into an ocean and expecting it to splash a ship. Hence, a reasonable person might conclude that purchasing a ticket is an exercise in futility. Yet, when people find themselves in front of a ticket vending machine, their motivations often shift. The excitement of what could be is intoxicating. The thought of a life-changing win can inspire dreams of new homes, cars, and opportunities. The paradox arises because, logically, every ticket purchased should feel like throwing money away. However, someone must win, and each ticket represents a chance, however slight, at that victory. To add another layer, consider the perspective of collective behavior. Large groups buying tickets create a social phenomenon. One might reason that if everyone assumes they will lose, why would they continue to play? Yet, the thrill of possibility drives individuals to partake in this game, regardless of the statistics. The combined excitement cultivates an atmosphere of hope and anticipation. Psychologically, many people approach the lottery with a unique blend of optimism and rationality. In a hypothetical situation where a dozen friends discuss the lottery over dinner, the conversation might spark excitement. Even those who understand the improbability of winning often share thoughts on what they would do if they won. The conversations can spiral into imaginative scenarios, creating a sense of community and camaraderie over a shared dream. Moreover, we can delve into the behavior exhibited by those who habitually play the lottery. Some individuals buy tickets regularly, convinced that they can find their way to a lucky streak. They might have their own lucky numbers, often based on significant dates or personal milestones. This ritual gives them a sense of control and is part of a hopeful narrative that they frame around their lives. They rationalize that if they keep playing, their odds may eventually improve, even if the situation remains statistically unchanged. This leads us into a fascinating twist: the gambler's fallacy. This cognitive bias is the belief that past events can affect the likelihood of future outcomes in independent random events. For instance, someone might think that because a particular number hasn't come up in a while, it is due to come up soon. This way of thinking, while entirely flawed in the context of random events, illustrates how human psychology often oversimplifies complex probability theories. But let's shift our focus to what the lottery represents beyond the numbers. It embodies dreams and aspirations. Each ticket signifies a wish, a desire for a brighter future, or an escape from the mundane. People often say that the real prize lies in the hope created, not just the tangible money. The excitement of the draw, whether live on television or online, brings electricity and anticipation that transcends the mundane. In a way, the lottery paradox engages with deeper philosophical questions about belief, hope, and reality. It challenges us to reflect on how we deal with uncertainty in life. Just as one prepares for life's unpredictabilities, the act of buying a lottery ticket mirrors the countless risks we take daily. Every decision we make, whether to switch that job, take that trip, or even indulge in a risky investment, mirrors the leap of faith inherent in purchasing a ticket. You may ask, what happens when someone does win? The exhilarating moment when a winner is announced brings a whirlwind of emotions, joy, disbelief, and often a profound change. There are countless stories of individuals who have won lotteries and how it transformed their lives, sometimes for better and sometimes for worse. These stories stimulate conversation, inspire hope, and sometimes serve as cautionary tales about the challenges that great fortune can bring. In conclusion, the lottery paradox encapsulates the thrilling dance between belief and reality. While the mathematical odds may be prevalent, the emotional landscape painted by dreams, hopes, and the thrill of possibility is vibrant and compelling. Each ticket bought represents a flurry of dreams. While logic might dictate caution, the heart often leads us into possibilities. The journey through this paradox reveals not just the numbers, but also the human experience, weaving a rich tapestry of aspiration, belief, and the complex nature of chance. The Crocodile Paradox is a fascinating thought experiment that challenges our understanding of knowledge, belief, and prediction. It begins with a simple story involving a crocodile who steals a child and promises to return the child if the parent is able to correctly predict what the crocodile will do next. This scenario raises intriguing questions about certainty, communication, and logical reasoning. Imagine a parent who is desperate to get their child back. The crocodile, known for its cunning nature, proposes a wager. If the parent can guess whether the crocodile will return the child or not, the crocodile will honor the prediction. At first glance, this seems like an opportunity for the parent. If they believe the crocodile will return the child, they can confidently state this and hope for a happy resolution. However, the paradox arises when we consider the implications of the parent's prediction. If the parent predicts that the crocodile will return the child, and the crocodile, aware of this prediction, decides instead to keep the child, the crocodile would be breaking his promise. This leads to a perplexing situation. If the parent's prediction is incorrect, the crocodile has not broken its promise. But if the prediction is correct, and the crocodile chooses to return the child, then the crocodile has kept its word. Now, if we dissect this scenario further, we encounter a deeper layer of complexity. The crocodile's actions seem determined by the parent's belief. If the parent predicts that the child will be returned, the crocodile must then consider how to respond to that prediction. This introduces an element of self-awareness and intention from the crocodile. The question at hand is whether the crocodile is bound by its original promise, or whether it is free to change its actions based on the parent's beliefs. This solution is not as straightforward as it appears. The crux of the paradox lies in the interpretation of the crocodile's promise. Should the crocodile act against the parent's prediction, the promise becomes self-defeating. The situation leaves the parent in a dilemma, caught between hope and the uncertainty of the crocodile's intention. It's a psychological game that encapsulates the essence of promises and the nature of belief. Let's consider an example outside the realm of crocodiles. Think about a teacher who tells a student that they will receive a passing grade, but only if they correctly predict their grade in advance. If the student predicts a passing grade, and the teacher, knowing this, decides to give them a failing grade, who is truly correct? The paradox remains. If the teacher acts according to the student's belief, they uphold their promise. If they act contrary to it, the uncertainty of their actions brings about a conflict. This paradox touches on broader themes, such as determinism and free will. Are entities bound by their commitments, or can they always choose to act differently? This question extends into larger debates within philosophy and logic. It allows for discussions about how beliefs shape reality and how our understanding of situations can affect outcomes. The crocodile, in this narrative, serves as a representation of the complexities surrounding promises and actions. Much like the interactions between people, the crocodile's response is influenced by external expectations. This scenario doesn't merely exist in isolation, but encourages us to explore the long-standing philosophical discussions about knowledge, certainty, and the nature of promise-keeping. At its core, the Crocodile Paradox functions as a metaphor for our interactions with others. It reminds us of how our assumptions and expectations can influence outcomes. Just as the parent's prediction shapes the crocodile's actions, our beliefs often dictate how we navigate our world and interact with those around us. In summary, the Crocodile Paradox invites us to examine the nature of promises, predictions, and the layers of meaning that envelop our decisions. Through this thought experiment, we engage with ideas that resonate on multiple levels, leading to greater awareness and insight into human behavior and philosophical inquiry. Though it poses challenging questions, it also serves as a gateway to deeper understanding, ensuring that the exploration of knowledge remains a fascinating journey through the complexities of logic and reality. Newcomb's paradox presents an intriguing dilemma that delves into the intricate interplay of free will, prediction, and rational choice. Imagine that you are presented with two boxes, Box A and Box B. Box A is transparent and contains a visible amount of money, let's say $1,000. Box B, on the other hand, is opaque. It may either be empty or hold a staggering amount, let's say $1 million. Before you make your choice, there is a unique twist to this scenario. A being, often described as a highly advanced predictor, has predicted your decision with a remarkable accuracy. This predictor has filled Box B based on their forecast of your choice. If they predicted that you would only take Box B, they would place $1 million inside it. However, if they predicted you would take both Box A and Box B, the predictor would leave Box B empty. When faced with this choice, the core of Newcomb's paradox emerges. One option is to choose only Box B, which could potentially conceal or reveal a life-changing sum of money. The other option is to choose both boxes. You may argue that choosing both boxes seems rational because you would secure the money in Box A regardless, leading you to think that you would end up with the $1,000 plus whatever is in Box B. Yet, this decision rests on the predictions made by the predictor. The counter-argument to this thought process suggests that acting on the assumption that the predictor is accurate alters the strategy. If the predictor is indeed reliable and has successfully foreseen your propensity to act, choosing only Box B becomes the more advantageous move. By selecting only Box B, you harness the full potential of that predicted outcome, thereby boosting your chances of receiving $1 million. At its core, Newcomb's paradox poses challenging questions about determinism versus free will. Do we act independently in our decision-making, or are our choices influenced by external forecasts? Many people would argue that deciding to go for both boxes seems like a safer, more reasonable strategy. After all, it is intuitive to want to secure present winnings while still taking a chance on future potential. On the other hand, supporters of the single-box strategy maintain that the predictor's insight makes it a wiser choice. Their argument rests on the principle of expected outcome. If the predictor has historically exhibited an astonishing success rate, one could reasonably assume that their prediction will hold true once again. Thus, choosing box B solely becomes the calculated move, as it can lead to a greater profit than pursuing both options. In this philosophical and theoretical dilemma, the implications stretch beyond just this scenario. Newcomb's paradox forces us to reflect on the nature of choice and uncertainty in broader contexts. It invites us to consider whether we are simply reactions to the deterministic world or if we can truly forge our paths independently. Straightforwardly put, Newcomb's paradox encapsulates a fascinating conflict between intuition and calculated decision-making, one that is as complex as it is thought-provoking. As you consider your approach to the boxes, the paradox continues to challenge conventional wisdom. The sense of assurance and security derived from picking both boxes can be captivating. Yet, the allure of a single, well-considered choice draws many people in as they weigh the odds. This intellectual tug-of-war makes Newcomb's paradox a subject of relentless exploration and debate, engaging philosophers, economists, and theorists across various disciplines. To delve deeper into the practical implications, think of situations in life where prediction and behavior intertwine. Consider job interviews, where you prepare based on feedback and expectations. If you know what your interviewer seeks, you can tailor your answers to align with their vision, just as the predictor aligns the contents of box B with your potential choice. Additionally, this scenario reflects on social dynamics, where we often alter our decisions depending on anticipated outcomes based on others' choices or actions. Engaging with Newcomb's paradox allows us not only to analyze rational decision-making mechanisms, but also to explore an inexhaustible panorama of human psychology and understanding. The captivating question remains: how free are we really in our decision-making if our choices can be anticipated so accurately? As we explore the expansive territory of choices, predictions, and consequences, Newcomb's paradox remains a thought-provoking catalyst for discussions about rationality, knowledge, and the limits of human decision-making. Both offers hold their merit, challenging our conventional ways of thinking about choices and urges us to reassess our perceptions of knowledge and power. In conclusion, Newcomb's paradox serves as an enduring and captivating challenge in game theory, prompting us to analyze our instincts, the nature of predictions, and behavior in complex scenarios. Perhaps the signal lesson derived from this paradox is not merely about the two boxes, but about our constant striving for understanding in an unpredictable world, making choices that resonate with both reason and intuition. The Paradox of Hedonism presents a fascinating exploration of human nature and our complex relationship with pleasure. This paradox suggests that when we chase pleasure directly, the outcome can often be quite the opposite of what we desire. It's a concept that invites reflection on how we pursue happiness in our lives. Imagine a delightful dessert. The first bite often brings instant joy, a rush of sweetness on the tongue. Yet, If you were to eat dessert continuously, that initial euphoria may fade away, leaving you feeling bloated and unsatisfied. What was once a pleasurable experience becomes overwhelming. This illustrates how excessive pursuit of pleasure can lead to negative experiences, emphasizing that enjoyment often diminishes when pleasure is sought out too deliberately. Additionally, think about activities we usually associate with fun. When we engage in these activities with the sole purpose of having a good time, we may inadvertently sabotage our enjoyment. Picture a group of friends sitting together, intent on having a great evening. If their primary focus is to have fun, they might find themselves feeling pressure to laugh or to create exciting moments. This pressure could ultimately lead to an evening filled with forced smiles instead of genuine joy. In contrast, when we engage in these activities without the expectation of pleasure, the experience often becomes more fulfilling. Consider, too, the world of social media. Many people aim to capture enjoyable moments to share online. As they focus on creating the perfect post, they may become disconnected from the very experiences that brought them joy. Instead of living in the moment, they become observers of their lives. In this way, the pursuit of virtual affirmation may replace genuine contentment, using up energy that could otherwise contribute to real connections and shared moments of joy. Furthermore, think about the act of relaxation itself. You might find yourself doing various things to unwind, such as watching television or scrolling through social media in search of entertainment. However, the mind's anticipation for pleasure can create a paradox where you end up feeling restless by overstimulating your senses. Instead, if you take a break from the pressure to enjoy yourself, you may find yourself naturally relaxing and savoring the simple routines of life, such as enjoying a warm cup of tea or pausing to watch the world around you. Exploring deeper into relationships, we notice a similar pattern. People often enter relationships with the primary goal of seeking happiness and fulfillment. Yet, when both partners actively pursue those feelings, it can lead to a sense of competition or discontentment. Instead of fostering a nurturing connection, individuals might focus on their own needs, leaving little room for authenticity. Yet, when partners love and support each other without focusing solely on personal gratification, they may discover joy in shared experiences and the comfort of companionship. A related concept is the idea of mindfulness. When individuals focus on being fully present and experiencing life as it unfolds, they often find genuine moments of happiness appear without being forced. This state of being can lead to a deeper sense of fulfillment, even in mundane moments like taking a walk outside, appreciating the beauty of nature, or indulging in a meaningful conversation. By integrating mindfulness, people can cultivate pleasure more naturally, without a focused agenda. The same applies to achievements and success. Individuals who chase success with the intent to feel fulfilled might feel a fleeting sense of accomplishment when they achieve their goals. However, if their pursuit of success becomes an obsession, they may find themselves in a relentless cycle of dissatisfaction. In contrast, those who engage in their endeavors for the sake of passion or curiosity often find their journeys to be surprisingly rewarding. They find joy in the process rather than fixating on the end result. In realizing the complexity of our desires for pleasure, we may come to understand that the journey of life encompasses moments of joy interspersed with challenges. This blend of experiences often contributes to a richer tapestry of existence. By allowing ourselves to embrace the journey rather than chasing the pursuit of pleasure directly, we often stumble upon genuine fulfillment in unexpected places. Ultimately, the paradox of hedonism serves as an insightful reminder of how the quest for happiness can diverge from achieving it. Reflecting on how we prioritize our pursuits can reshape our experiences. By shifting our focus from the direct pursuit of pleasure to genuine engagement with life's moments, we open ourselves up to a reservoir of joy that unfolds naturally, making our lives all the more meaningful. Whether it's through relationships, personal passions, or daily rhythms, the beauty of life shines through more vividly when we let go of the desire for happiness and allow it to come to us instead. The Quine Paradox is a fascinating concept that arises from the intersection of language, truth, and self-reference. To understand it, we need to delve into the world of semantics, which examines how meaning is derived from words and sentences. At its core, the Quine Paradox challenges our perception of language and how it conveys truth. To illustrate, consider a sentence that asserts its own untruthfulness. An example is the phrase, "This sentence is false." If the sentence is true, then what it says must hold, which means that it is false. Conversely, if the sentence is false, that would imply it is true. This creates a logical conundrum, where the statement cannot consistently be classified as either true or false. This intertwining of truth and self-reference is not just a playful exercise. It provokes deeper philosophical inquiries into how we understand language and meaning. Now, let's think about how the Quine Paradox reflects elements of reference. Reference is the relationship between words and what they denote or point to in the world. When we say, "The cat is on the mat," the word cat refers to a specific animal in that context. However, when a statement refers to itself, it complicates the usual understanding of reference. The Quine Paradox exemplifies this by using a self-referential structure that leads to ambiguity. The philosopher Willard Van Orman Quine, after whom the paradox is named, engaged deeply with issues of language and meaning. His work often challenged the boundaries between philosophy and linguistics. Quine's exploration disregarded the notion of a rigid, static meaning. Instead, he proposed that meaning is fluid, shaped by linguistic practices and theories. This perspective opens up a broader discussion about how language can shape our understanding of reality. Consider the implications if language is inherently ambiguous or paradoxical. It suggests that our communication may not always effectively convey intended meanings. This has practical ramifications in everyday interaction. For instance, if we think of idiomatic expressions like "kick the bucket," the literal interpretation conveys something entirely different from the intended meaning. This illustrates how language can lead to misunderstandings. The Quine Paradox amplifies this with its self-referential nature, creating a scenario where clarity breaks down and ambiguity flourishes. Moreover, the paradox prompts questions about our beliefs and assertions about truth. How do we determine the veracity of a statement that references itself? It calls to mind George Orwell's notion of doublethink, where contradictory beliefs coexist. If a sentence can uphold its truth while simultaneously denying it, how can we stake our beliefs on language? The Quine Paradox urges us to recognize the limitations of our attempts to apply a strict binary framework of true and false to state. Another aspect to consider is how the Quine Paradox finds resonance in various fields beyond philosophy. In computer science and the study of artificial intelligence, self-referential structures can lead to challenges in programming languages and logic systems. These systems often struggle when faced with recursive functions that resemble the paradox. For software engineers and AI developers, understanding the nuances of self-reference is crucial for creating robust systems that can handle complex language and logic without falling into traps set by ambiguities. Art and literature, too, can be seen as playing with self-reference and the complexities of truth. Writers such as Jorge Luis Borges used self-referential techniques to explore ideas of infinity, perspective, and the nature of reality. The Quine Paradox resonates within these stories as characters may find themselves in situations where the concept of truth becomes elusive, reflecting the playful and often perplexing interaction between language and meaning. Exploring the Quine Paradox can lead us to appreciate the richness and complexity of human language. It serves as a reminder of the importance of context and the fluid nature of meaning. The continuous evolution of language influences not only how we communicate, but also how we build our understanding of the world. Whether in daily conversations, philosophical debates, or creative expressions, the twists and turns of language invite us to think critically about our use of words. In conclusion, the Quine Paradox challenges our perceptions of language, truth, and reference. As we navigate this intricate landscape, we become more aware of the layers of meaning embedded in our communication. The paradox highlights the playful yet profound ways that language interacts with our thoughts and beliefs, reminding us that understanding is often more nuanced than it appears. By engaging with these ideas, we expand our horizons and deepen our appreciation for the art of language and the complexities it encompasses. Moore's paradox presents a fascinating conundrum in philosophy, particularly in the realm of belief, assertion, and the complexities of human reasoning. Imagine you find yourself observing the weather outside your window. The sky is dark, swollen with clouds, and raindrops are cascading down like nature's own percussion. In that situation, you might feel compelled to declare, "It is raining." However, here is where the paradox unfolds. What if you simultaneously express a belief that contradicts your assertion, proclaiming, "It is raining, but I don't believe it is"? At first glance, this statement feels logically inconsistent or odd. How can one confidently declare that it is indeed raining while simultaneously claiming disbelief in that very phenomenon? This contradiction invites us to explore deeper into what belief and assertion entail. To assert something is to present it as a fact, something that is true in reality. When we say it is raining, we are not just sharing information. We are making an assertion meant to convey certainty in the truth of our observation. Yet, on the flip side, belief is a more subjective experience. Belief encompasses our personal conviction regarding the truth of a statement. In the case of saying, "I don't believe it is raining," we introduce a disconnect where, despite the evidence of our own senses, we assert a skepticism towards that very evidence. It suggests a tug-of-war between perception and cognition, revealing the nuanced complexity of how our minds work. This paradox is more than just a playful word game. It highlights the intricate layers of thought and understanding that define human experience. What we see, hear, and feel influences our beliefs, yet those beliefs can sometimes diverge starkly from observable reality. Imagine a scenario where you might be convinced that it cannot possibly rain. Perhaps you recall a weather forecast that promised sunny skies, or your previous experiences of rain that were accompanied by a damp chill you abhor. Even while the rain beats against your window, the assertion of it is raining collides with an entrenched disbelief fueled by past personal judgments. What makes Moore's paradox especially engaging is its invitation to ponder the nature of rationality and how we construct our understanding of truth. Are we always rational beings? Do our emotional responses, desires, and fears shape our beliefs to such an extent that they can override logical proof? Consider the example of an artist standing beside their masterpiece, recognizing the beauty and technical prowess of their work, yet feeling a pang of doubt. They could say, This is a magnificent piece, but I don't believe it deserves the praise it's getting. In this moment, we see how self-doubt allows a person to both recognize their accomplishments and simultaneously harbor disbelief. Moreover, Moore's paradox touches upon the limits of language and communication. When we articulate our thoughts, we are constrained by the structure and conventions of language. The words we use may not fully encompass the complexities of our realities or emotions. The paradox reveals that our convictions may not always align neatly with our expressions. It emphasizes that communication is a blend of logic and emotion. As we dive deeper into the implications of this paradox, we find that it resonates with our everyday lives. Many people experience a similar phenomenon when it comes to their aspirations or feelings. For instance, one might express, "I'm excited about this new job opportunity, but part of me is terrified I won't succeed." Here, we confront the duality of human experience, where one part of our mind anticipates success, while another wrestles with fear and doubt. This reflects the scenario within Moore's paradox, illustrating how we exist in a landscape of competing thoughts and feelings. Philosophers have speculated about the implications of Moore's paradox concerning our understanding of knowledge, skepticism, and even the structure of rational discourse. Some suggest that not only do our beliefs influence our assertions, but the very act of asserting something brings an expectation of belief along with it. It makes one wonder if we truly understand our own beliefs as intricately as we think we do. Can we ever fully reconcile our assertions with our beliefs, or are we continually navigating a landscape of contradictions? As we explore Moore's paradox further, it invites a rich discussion about the nature of truth and the role of perspective in shaping our understanding of reality. The paradox seems to signal a journey, asking us to reflect on our beliefs, our assertions, and how the two interact. It nudges us to consider the gray areas of human thought, encouraging a more profound comprehension of the extraordinary ways we make sense of the world around us. In summary, Moore's paradox encapsulates a realization that our minds operate within a web of complexity. We may find ourselves asserting truths that conflict with our beliefs, revealing the intricate dance between logic and emotion. As we navigate through this cognitive landscape, it becomes clear that each of us is shaped by our experiences, perceptions, and beliefs, which constantly influence our understanding of reality. This paradox is not just a philosophical puzzle. It's a mirror reflecting the multifaceted nature of human thought and existence. It reminds us that certainty and doubt often coexist, shaping the tapestry of our lives in unexpected ways. Imagine sitting in a darkened room, a flickering screen casting shadows across your face. A movie begins, and you find yourself drawn into a world that is not real. The characters are creations, yet as the story unfolds, they evoke genuine emotions within you. This phenomenon is known as the paradox of fiction, and it raises intriguing questions about the nature of our emotional experiences. How can we feel sadness for a character who doesn't exist? When a beloved character faces a tragic fate or an unfolding dilemma, our hearts may ache as if we are encountering a real loss. Think about the last time you watched a film or read a novel that touched you deeply. Perhaps it was the vulnerability of the protagonist or the selflessness of a supporting character that tugged at your heartstrings. You may have laughed with them, cried for them, or felt a sense of joy as they triumphed over adversity. One might wonder, why do we invest ourselves emotionally in these narratives? One explanation lies in our capacity for empathy. As human beings, we possess the remarkable ability to understand and share the feelings of others. This empathy extends beyond our own experiences, allowing us to connect with fictional characters, just as we would with people in our lives. When a character experiences joy, we may smile because we share in their happiness. Conversely, when they are hurt, we feel that pain too. It blurs the lines between the real and the imagined. Consider a heartwarming scene where friends gather for a reunion. The shared stories, laughter, and the bond of friendship create an atmosphere filled with warmth. Now, envision experiencing this through a film. Although the characters are not actual friends in your life, their interactions can trigger nostalgic feelings of your own friendships. You can recall moments of joy and laughter, and perhaps a sense of longing for those instances fills your heart. This connection reveals a powerful truth. Our emotional response to fictional events can mirror the emotions we experience in our reality. Additionally, the complexity of storytelling plays a significant role in how we connect with characters. A well-written narrative can create multidimensional individuals who reflect our own struggles, hopes, and dreams. A character facing dilemmas may resonate with us because we find ourselves in similar situations. Their journey may shed light on our personal experiences, allowing us to explore our emotions from a safe distance. Think of classic tales like Romeo and Juliet. Despite knowing the tragic end, audiences become emotionally invested in the love and challenges faced by the star-crossed lovers. The intense emotions portrayed, love, despair, longing, are universal. This connection to shared human experiences transcends the boundaries of time and space, allowing us to relate deeply to characters who lived centuries ago. Fiction also offers a unique opportunity for catharsis. Engaging with fictional events can provide a space for us to navigate our own feelings. By observing characters dealing with loss, conflict, or love, we can reflect on our own emotional journeys. It's almost as if we are granted permission to feel, to grieve, or to celebrate through the lens of someone else's story. This release is often invigorating and enlightening, effectively illustrating the power of fiction. This paradox also leads us to explore the nature of reality itself. When we watch a gripping thriller, our adrenaline might spike as we anticipate a twist, but we know full well that this is not our reality. Yet, the emotions we experience are undeniably real. We become invested in the outcomes, sometimes yelling at the screen or cheering for characters to make the right choices. This engagement is a testament to our willingness to suspend disbelief, allowing ourselves to fully embrace the narrative unfolding before us. As we dive deep into the realm of fiction, it becomes evident that our emotional responses serve a higher purpose. They foster connection not only with the characters, but also with fellow viewers or readers. Sharing discoveries, discussing plot twists, or unraveling character arcs creates dialogue that enriches our experiences. How we respond to these stories reflects our individuality and collective experiences. It reveals a common thread that binds us as human beings. In essence, the paradox of fiction highlights a profound aspect of our shared humanity. It reminds us that our emotions, though linked to fictional characters, are genuine and vital. They allow us to explore our own lives through the experiences of others, fostering empathy, understanding, and reflection. So the next time you find yourself shedding a tear or bursting into laughter at a fictional tale, remember that this emotional connection is not merely an illusion. It is a reflection of what it means to be human. The stories we engage with shape us, challenge us, and ultimately unite us in our journey of understanding the complexities of emotion and experience. In the realm of literature, we frequently encounter the intriguing concept known as the Preface Paradox. This paradox touches upon a curious relationship between authors and their works, showcasing a deep-seated belief that dances between certainty and doubt. Imagine a world where every author meticulously crafts their ideas, pouring their experiences, knowledge, and thoughts into the pages of a book. They believe wholeheartedly in the messages they convey. Yet, at the same time, there exists a whisper of uncertainty. They are acutely aware that their work may contain inaccuracies, oversights, or flaws. To comprehend this paradox, we must first understand the role of authors in the literary landscape. Writers often embark on their creative journeys armed with conviction. They see their words as vessels of truth, tools for communication, and vehicles for connection. Each sentence, paragraph, and chapter is crafted with intention, designed to resonate with readers and evoke emotion. An author believes in their perspective, presenting it as a reflection of reality or exploration of ideas. Whether they are penning a novel steeped in fiction or analyzing complex theories in a non-fiction work, authors assume their narratives hold value. However, this brings us to the crux of the paradox. No matter how confidently an author writes, they grapple with the understanding that errors may lurk within their pages. It is a humbling thought. Much like a painter who knows that their brushwork may not capture the intended nuance, authors acknowledge that their writing is a reflection of their understanding at a given moment in time. The vast world of knowledge is constantly evolving, and interpretations can shift with new information. Consider the example of historical fiction. An author immerses themselves in research about a particular era, striving to create an authentic and engaging narrative. They pore over documents, artifacts, and existing literature, capturing the essence of the time. Yet, as they pour their findings into a storyline, they must contend with the fact that historical interpretations can differ dramatically. New discoveries might upend previously accepted facts, and an author might inadvertently perpetuate inaccuracies despite their intentions. Similarly, in the realm of scientific writing, authors attempt to elucidate complex concepts, sharing their understanding with the world. They base their writings on current research and established theories. Yet, science is a field of continuous inquiry and revision. What is considered accurate today may be challenged tomorrow. Authors in this field must confront the paradox head-on as they present their findings, while also acknowledging the potential for error as new studies emerge. This realization can create a sense of tension within authors. They are driven by a desire to share knowledge, to inspire, and to provoke thought. Yet, at the same time, they must not shy away from the possibility that their words might mislead. Some authors choose to address this directly within the preface of their books. As they open the door to their work, they might pen a brief note acknowledging that while they stand behind their narrative, they are aware of the limitations of their perspective. For the reader, this paradox can be equally compelling. It invites a deeper level of engagement with the text. When one understands that an author believes in their message, but is also aware of potential flaws, it fosters a relationship of trust. Readers may feel encouraged to approach the work with both enthusiasm and critical thinking. They can savor the author's insights while remaining mindful of the broader context, recognizing the transient nature of knowledge. The Preface Paradox also invites a philosophical contemplation on the nature of truth itself. In a world where information is often fluid and interpretations are subjective, the question arises: what constitutes an error? Is it merely a misrepresentation of facts, or does it extend to the very essence of interpretation? Each reader brings their background, experiences, and biases to a text, resulting in a unique understanding that may diverge from the author's original intent. As we navigate this paradox, it becomes essential to embrace a spirit of curiosity. Both authors and readers can benefit from the willingness to explore, question, and discuss the content presented. This dynamic exchange encourages a more profound engagement with literature and fosters an environment where knowledge is not only shared, but also dissected and debated. In summary, the Preface Paradox encapsulates a fascinating interplay between conviction and uncertainty in the realm of authorship. Authors pour their hearts and minds into their works, confident in the stories they tell. Yet they also remain conscious of the possibility of errors and differing interpretations. This paradox enriches the literary experience by inviting a dialogue between writers and readers, encouraging exploration, and reflecting the ever-evolving landscape of knowledge. It reminds us that literature is not just a static representation of truth, but rather a dynamic conversation that thrives on both belief and skepticism. Within this complexity lies the beauty of storytelling and the shared human experience it represents. The arrow paradox is one of those fascinating concepts that invites us to think deeply about the nature of motion and time. To understand it, we can start by imagining an arrow, sleek and sharp, sailing through the air toward its target. At first glance, it appears to be a simple process. One moment, the arrow is not yet in the air, and the next, it is zooming at remarkable speed. However, if we examine the arrow's flight more closely, the situation becomes intriguing, even perplexing. First, let's analyze what it means for the arrow to be in motion. Motion suggests change over time, a transition from one position to another. But if we consider the arrow at any singular moment, we discover something curious. At that specific instant, the arrow occupies a certain position in space. It has not moved. It is entirely still. This observation leads us down a thought-provoking path, one that confronts the traditional notions of movement. To illustrate this, we can visualize a series of still images taken in quick succession as the arrow flies. Each image captures the arrow in a fixed position, appearing motionless at each fractional second. In every single moment, the arrow doesn't change position. It remains where it is. If we take only one of these moments in time, the idea of motion seems to dissolve completely. This challenge to our understanding causes us to question the very essence of movement. This paradox was famously articulated by the ancient Greek philosopher Zeno. Zeno presented several paradoxes, and the arrow paradox is one of the most compelling. His arguments focused on the idea that if time is composed of indivisible instants, then an object, like our arrow, cannot be moving, since it is at rest at every single instant. How can we reconcile this reasoning with our everyday experience of seeing the arrow fly? As we ponder this, it's crucial to consider how we perceive time and motion. Our perception is structured around the idea that motion is continuous. For example, when we observe a car driving by, we perceive it as moving fluidly from one point to another. This perception is a synthesis of multiple moments strung together, forming the sensation of movement. But in the stark reality of an instant, the car, like the arrow, does not appear to move at all. Hence, we realize that there is a complex relationship between time, perception, and motion. Furthermore, we can analyze the concept of intervals. Between any two moments, there exists an infinite number of points that can be quantified. In mathematics, we can think of this as representing time as a continuum, where every moment occupies a space along a timeline. While this allows infinite points to exist, it doesn't help us resolve the paradox concerning motion when we consider only singular instances. Yet, in practice, we are fully aware of the motion of objects around us. So where does that leave us? Is it that our understanding of time and motion is flawed? Perhaps the distinction lies in the fact that our understanding of motion must incorporate the notion of intervals, not just individual moments. When we construct a narrative of motion, we are inevitably framing it in a way that allows us to account for change over time. In embracing this perspective, we can appreciate that the arrow, while motionless at any single moment, possesses continuity across the entirety of its flight. The act of moving, therefore, becomes a dynamic interplay of countless moments, each contributing to the narrative of motion. It is an intricate thread woven through time, where the arrow transitions from one position to another, despite being at rest in each isolated instance. The arrow paradox provides an intriguing platform for deeper contemplation. It encourages us to ponder not just the mechanics of movement, but also how we construct our understanding of the world. We live our lives with a sense of motion and progress, yet beneath the surface lies an astonishing complexity. There is beauty in grasping that even while still, an object participates in a sequence that transcends simplistic notions of immediate experience. As we delve into these philosophical inquiries, we come to appreciate that motion is not merely a physical activity. It is a state of potentiality that unfolds as a tapestry over time. Ideas like the arrow paradox invite us to challenge our perceptions, offering insights into how we interpret existence itself. They remind us that while we may observe stillness, there is a broader narrative in play, filled with transitions and changes yet to be uncovered. In conclusion, the inquiry into the nature of motion versus stillness calls upon us to expand our understanding of time, perception, and the fundamental experiences that shape our reality. The arrow paradox encapsulates this intrigue beautifully, as it illustrates the rich interplay between the apparent and the actual across the canvas of existence. Allow yourself to explore these concepts, and perhaps like the arrow, you too will discover new dimensions of understanding that take you on a remarkable journey through the nature of reality itself. Imagine a group of friends deciding on where to go for dinner. Each person has their own favorite restaurant, but for some reason, they all end up agreeing on a place nobody actually prefers. This scenario is a perfect example of the Abilene Paradox, a psychological phenomenon that sheds light on how group dynamics can sometimes lead to decisions that no one truly wants. In a typical situation, you'd expect individuals to express their preferences, and the group would collectively choose a place that satisfies at least some of their desires. However, the Abilene Paradox illustrates a situation where everyone preemptively assumes that others would prefer something different from what they actually want. As a result, they go along with a decision that nobody is personally excited about, leading them to a destination like Abilene, Texas, a place they might not have chosen themselves. Let's dig deeper into how this paradox works. When individuals in a group think that their own preferences are not aligned with others, they might hold back their true opinions out of fear of conflict, concern for group harmony, or the desire to conform. So in the dinner example, one friend really wants Italian food, but when asked, they say they don't mind what the others choose. Another person wants sushi, but feels that everyone else will probably want something different. Slowly, members of the group suppress their true desires, believing that their preferences are at odds with the majority. This leads to a chain reaction where, in the interest of avoiding discomfort or disagreement, they all agree on a decision that feels safe and uncontroversial, like a generic fast food chain or a diner, when, in reality, everyone was hoping for a vibrant Italian restaurant or a cozy sushi bar. It is not that anyone in the group had a strong inclination toward the chosen restaurant. Rather, it is that each member believed that their own feelings were out of sync with what the others wanted. The Abilene Paradox isn't just limited to social situations. It can also manifest in professional environments. For instance, consider a team brainstorming ideas for a project. If team members are hesitant to express their true opinions about an idea, fearing it might be unpopular, they might all agree on a subpar suggestion simply to avoid the discomfort of dissent. This can lead to missed opportunities and inefficient outcomes. One of the most famous instances of the Abilene Paradox occurred in a study conducted by Jerry B. Harvey, who first described the phenomenon. In his anecdote, a family takes a trip to Abilene in extreme heat, where no one actually wanted to go. When reflecting on the experience later, each member expressed that they had wanted to stay at home. This paradox highlights the disconnect between individual and group desires and showcases the importance of open communication. So, how can groups avoid falling into this trap? Encouraging an open and safe environment where everyone feels comfortable sharing their thoughts is essential. Leaders can play a significant role by explicitly inviting dissenting opinions and fostering a culture where questioning and discussing decisions is seen as a valuable contribution rather than a threat. It is also beneficial to periodically check in with each team member individually, allowing them to express their thoughts away from the group dynamic. Another tool to combat the Abilene Paradox is to implement structured decision-making processes. For instance, using anonymous surveys can help gather honest feedback without the pressure of social dynamics influencing individual responses. By understanding that silence does not equate to agreement, groups can make more informed and satisfying choices. Additionally, reframing how decisions are approached can encourage a more diverse range of thoughts. Instead of focusing solely on group consensus, it can be helpful to highlight the value of individual preferences. Discussing different ideas, without the immediate pressure of having to reach an agreement, fosters creativity and exploration of options that better fit the varying desires within the group. In summary, the Abilene Paradox serves as a reminder that group dynamics can sometimes lead to choices that don't reflect the collective desires of individuals. Awareness of this phenomenon opens the door for better communication, understanding, and ultimately, more satisfying decision-making. By prioritizing transparency and encouraging a culture where preferences can be voiced openly, groups can minimize the risk of finding themselves on a journey to Abilene when they really wanted to explore so many more exciting destinations. The friendship paradox is a fascinating concept in social science that shines a light on the intricacies of our social networks. At its core, the paradox reveals something surprising about friendships. On average, your friends tend to have more friends than you do. This seems counterintuitive at first. When you look at your own friendships, you might wonder why the people you surround yourself with appear to possess larger social circles. To understand this paradox, let's explore the structure of social networks a bit more. Imagine a small village where everyone knows each other. In this village, there are a few extremely popular individuals who have a vast number of friends due to their engaging personalities or prominent roles in the community. On the other hand, there are also individuals with fewer connections. What happens when you start analyzing friendships in a larger context, such as cities, online platforms, or social media? Suddenly, you realize the distribution of friendships isn't uniform. The simple fact is that popular individuals are not only more likely to befriend others, but they also end up being friends with people who know fewer individuals. Therefore, When you measure the average number of friends among your friends, those who are more popular weigh in significantly higher than you. The result is that your friends may seem to possess greater social circles, even if you are well connected yourself. Consider a scenario where you have 3 friends. If those 3 friends each have 10 friends, but only 2 of them overlap with your connections, your average experience might be skewed. The discrepancy can be highlighted through a basic example. If one of your friends is a social butterfly with numerous acquaintances, their high friend count inflates the average for your group. Mathematically, you can see this reflected when you gather data on your friendships. Those with fewer connections might even bring down the average for the rest of the group. The implications of the friendship paradox extend beyond just understanding our social lives. It touches on a deeper understanding of human interaction and the dynamics of social behavior. Why do some individuals accumulate friends more easily than others? What can these social patterns teach us about community engagement and belonging? In the digital age, this paradox becomes even more apparent. With social platforms like Facebook or Instagram, you may notice that the friends you engage with often boast large follower counts or expansive lists of friends. This can create a misleading perception of one's own social standing. You might find yourself scrolling through your social feed, seeing friends appearing joyful and well-connected, potentially making you feel isolated or disconnected. Yet, there are positive angles to this phenomenon as well. Understanding the friendship paradox can enhance our appreciation for social networking. Instead of comparing our numbers to those of others, we can focus on the quality of our friendships. After all, a handful of meaningful connections can often outweigh a large network of acquaintances. Moreover, recognizing that friendships can operate on different levels encourages us to cultivate supportive relationships. If we consider that our friends might have more connections, we can also understand the value of solidarity among those we connect with frequently. Perhaps instead of seeing the numbers, we can focus on the shared experiences and moments that truly bind us. The dynamics of friendship are varied and complex. Some individuals naturally attract larger groups of friends, rich with social energy. Others might prefer strong, intimate connections with a few eye. This diversity in social preferences amplifies the importance of understanding the friendship paradox. It provides a lens through which we might view our social interactions, leading to greater empathy and less competitive feeling about social status. In various research studies, psychologists have examined this paradox in depth, revealing insights into human behavior, psychological well-being, and even societal structures. What happens when a person realizes they are part of a paradox? Often, it leads to self-reflection and improved awareness of their social dynamics. This leads to deeper relationships, fostering a sense of community and connection that transcends numerical measures. As we consider the complexities of our relationships, it is worthwhile to remember that friendship isn't simply about quantity. Instead, it's about resources, emotional support, mutual respect, and shared experiences. Conversations with friends can invigorate personal insights and contribute to emotional intelligence that enhances our societal function. In sharpening our awareness of the paradox, we learn to engage authentically. Building our understanding of friendship also helps to inspire us to reach out to others, bridging gaps in connection and encouraging new friendships. Visualize growth in friendships as an organic system. Just as a flower grows in a garden, friendships bloom in rich soil of shared experiences and mutual respect. The friendship paradox reminds us to nurture those connections, knowing that every relationship contributes uniquely to our lives regardless of the numbers attached. So, when you think about your own friendships and those of your network, consider the fabric that weaves you together. Relationships can shape our experiences and perspectives in powerful ways, and acknowledging the paradox allows us to truly grasp the nature of friendship while embracing the diversity of connection around us. It leads us not to competition, but to community, deeper understanding, and genuine relationships where the heart truly matters more than the count. Russell's paradox is one of the most intriguing and thought-provoking ideas in the realm of set theory, a branch of mathematical logic that explores the nature of sets, collections of objects, and their relationships. To understand this paradox, we need to delve into the basic concepts of sets and the implications of self-reference. Imagine a set, which we can think of as a collection of objects. Sets can contain various items, including numbers, letters, or even other sets. For instance, consider a set of all even numbers. This set is quite straightforward. It consists of numbers like 2, 4, 6, and so on. Now let's introduce another idea, the set of all sets that do not contain themselves. This is where things begin to get interesting. To visualize this, let's denote this mysterious set as S, so it contains every set that does not include itself as a member. Now, let's ask ourselves a fundamental question. Does the set S contain itself? If S contains itself, then according to its own definition, it should not contain itself, because it only includes sets that do not contain themselves. This leads us into a contradiction. But what if S does not contain itself? If that were the case, then according to its own defining rule, S must contain itself because it is indeed a set that does not include itself. This perplexing situation reveals a fundamental flaw in our understanding of sets. It highlights the inherent contradictions that arise when we allow sets to refer to themselves or to contain themselves. These contradictions are known as self-referential statements, and they can create significant challenges in logic and mathematics. To comprehend the impact of Russell's paradox, consider the foundation of modern mathematics. Many mathematical theories rest upon set theory as a basis. The paradox essentially calls into question the very foundations of these theories, pushing mathematicians and philosophers to reconsider the axioms and constructs they use to understand mathematical truths. In response to these challenges, several approaches to set theory emerged, aiming to resolve or circumvent the paradox. One significant development was the introduction of axiomatic set theory. This framework establishes specific rules and axioms governing the formation and behavior of sets, thereby restricting the kinds of collections that can be considered valid sets. One commonly referenced system is Zermelo-Fraenkel set theory, which includes the axiom of regularity, preventing such self-referential sets from forming. Additionally, the paradox extends beyond pure mathematics into fields such as philosophy, computer science, and linguistics. It raises fascinating questions about self-reference and language. For example, when we create statements that refer to themselves, we often encounter similar paradoxes, such as the classic, "This statement is false." The implications stretch far into discussions of truth, logic, and the boundaries of knowledge. Exploring these ideas prompts us to reconsider how we construct knowledge and build systems of understanding. The existence of Russell's paradox suggests that some collections of things might be too unwieldy or ill-defined to serve as valid sets. This provokes further inquiry into what we mean when we talk about collections and how we can ensure they are coherent and consistent. In many ways, Russell's paradox serves as a reminder of the complexities of reasoning and the importance of clarity in logical definition. It invites us to question our assumptions and reflects the rich interplay between mathematics, philosophy, and language. The journey into the world of sets and their implications reveals a deeper understanding of contradictions and the beautifully intricate patterns that can arise from simple concepts. In contemplating Russell's paradox, we enter a realm where simplicity meets complexity. We see how foundational ideas can lead to profound insights, inviting exploration into the depths of logic and reasoning. By examining the nature of sets and the relationships that define them, we engage with a timeless philosophical question about the limits of understanding and the nature of existence itself. Ultimately, the exploration of Russell's paradox is not merely an academic exercise. It serves as an invitation to embrace curiosity and wonder. It illustrates that even in the world of abstract mathematics, questions can unravel the fabric of our logical structures, pushing the boundaries of knowledge and prompting us to seek a deeper understanding of the universe we inhabit. It reminds us that in every collection of ideas, there exists the potential for paradox, and within those paradoxes lies the opportunity for enlightenment and discovery. The paradox of value, also known as the value paradox, is a fascinating concept in economics that explores the relationship between the utility of goods and their market price. It presents an intriguing question. Why are necessities like water often cheaper than luxurious items, such as diamonds, despite the former being essential for survival? To understand this paradox, let's consider the concept of utility, which refers to the satisfaction or benefit derived from consuming a good. Water is a fundamental resource for life. We need it for hydration, cooking, sanitation, and agriculture. Its widespread availability means that in most places, it is relatively inexpensive. In contrast, diamonds are not essential for existence, yet they command high prices in the market due to their rarity and the high demand for them as symbols of wealth and luxury. This discrepancy in pricing stems from two key economic factors: supply and demand, and the marginal utility of goods. Supply is the total amount of a good available in the market, while demand represents how much of that good consumers are willing to purchase at various price levels. Water is abundant in most regions, making it cheap and accessible. Although there are places where clean drinking water is scarce, its overall supply is generally high. In contrast, diamonds are limited in supply, and the complex processes involved in mining and selling them contribute to their elevated prices. The concept of marginal utility is also crucial to understanding the paradox. Marginal utility refers to the additional satisfaction a consumer gets from purchasing one more unit of a good. When you are very thirsty, the first glass of water you drink provides immense satisfaction. However, as you continue to drink, each additional glass brings less and less satisfaction. This is called diminishing marginal utility. Consequently, because water is so plentiful, its overall price remains low. On the other hand, consider diamonds. The first diamond might provide a high level of satisfaction for someone who desires to own one, but subsequent diamonds may not have the same emotional value. The rarity and status attached to owning a diamond elevate its perceived value far beyond its utility. This creates a situation where the price reflects not only the material worth, but also the social and cultural significance of the item. These ideas challenge our perceptions of value. When we think about necessities versus luxuries, it's easy to assume that more essential items should be more expensive. However, the market operates on different premises. Imagine walking through a grocery store where prices reflect both utility and scarcity. You might find a large basket of apples with a low price tag, while a single artfully crafted chocolate truffle is perched on a shelf with a high price because of its intricate design and specialized production process. The apples satisfy hunger, but the chocolate satisfies a different desire: indulgence and pleasure. In addition to supply and demand, another layer of complexity arises from the socio-cultural factors that influence perceptions of value. Societies often imbue certain items with symbolic meaning, making them highly desirable. For instance, status, fashion, and tradition can all drive demand for products that are not particularly useful. Think of fashion trends, where the latest designer handbag may cost thousands of dollars, not because it holds unique functional value, but rather due to its brand association and ability to signify social status and style. The paradox also extends into the realm of economic principles, where understanding how value is determined can provide insights into human behavior. The value we assign to items can be shaped by our experiences, values, and societal conventions. This often leads to situations where basic human needs may be undervalued, while non-essential goods become coveted luxuries. As we navigate this paradox, it raises questions about sustainability and resource allocation. Shouldn't the resources vital for life be treated with the highest regard? When we consider the price of water versus diamonds, we are also looking at how we prioritize our resources and make decisions. The ongoing global challenges related to water scarcity highlight the need for a reevaluation of our values. As we observe the disproportionate value assigned to various goods, we can reflect on what that says about our society and our priorities. In conclusion, the paradox of value serves as a compelling reminder of how our perceptions of worth can differ from the true utility of good. It encourages us to think critically about what we consider valuable and why. The interplay between necessity and luxury, abundance and scarcity, functional utility and cultural significance creates a rich tapestry that illustrates the complexities of human wants and market dynamics. So, the next time you encounter the price of everyday items versus luxurious ones, consider the intricate factors at play that shape our understanding of value. The paradox is not merely an academic concept. It is an integral part of how we engage with the world around us, reminding us that value is often more layered and nuanced than it may initially appear. The Grelling Paradox is a fascinating concept that forces us to look closely at language, definitions, and self-reference. It begins with the term heterological, which means not self-descriptive. To better understand this, let's break down the implications of this definition and why it leads to an intriguing paradox. To clarify further, a term is considered self-descriptive if it accurately describes itself. For example, the word short is self-descriptive when referring to something that is indeed short in length. On the other hand, heterological describes words or phrases that do not possess the qualities they describe. Now, let's consider the term heterological itself. If we ask whether heterological is heterological, we open a door to an intriguing puzzle. If heterological is heterological, then it indeed does not describe itself, because the term would mean it is not self-descriptive, fulfilling its own definition. But if heterological is not heterological, then it is self-descriptive, contradicting the essence of its own meaning. This creates a dilemma, making us question how we classify language and the structures of meaning. It is similar to a classic example known in logic and philosophy, famously illustrated through the notion of the barber who shaves all those who do not shave themselves. If the barber shaves himself, then he cannot shave himself according to the definition, leading to a contradiction of who he is supposed to shave. When we think deeply about these definitions, we need to consider the implications of how we apply language in our everyday conversations and thoughts. The Grelling-Nelson paradox serves as a reminder that language can often be more complex than it seems. It can stretch and twist, causing us to encounter contradictions and challenge our understanding. Language, and the way we use it, reflects our thoughts and perceptions. The paradox invites us to explore the boundaries of linguistic definitions. It illustrates the importance of clarity in communication. When words fail to align with their meanings, confusion can arise, leading to misunderstanding. This paradox compels us to reflect on our language choices and the meanings we ascribe to them. Let's consider another example. Imagine the word bald. This term is self-descriptive because it aptly describes something devoid of hair. Continuing along this line, think about a term like non-bald. Here, this term refers to something having hair. The self-referential capacity of these words appears simpler, yet the complexities of language reveal themselves in terms that invoke self-reference. The Grelling-Nelson Paradox serves as an essential inquiry into philosophical discussions. It inspires thoughts about the nature of definitions, existence, and perception. How do we establish categories in the world around us? How does our understanding of these categories shape the language we create and utilize? Philosophers have debated the implications of this paradox for a longer time than many might expect. It touches upon foundational principles, underlying logic, mathematics, and even the study of consciousness. The paradox extends beyond mere words. It indicates the instability we sometimes face when seeking to define concepts that reflect our experiences and reality. In various disciplines, the field of linguistics, cognitive science, and semantics, we observe the significance of considering how self-reference affects understanding. The Grelling-Nelson Paradox fosters a deeper inquiry into authority within language. It encourages critical thinking and analysis, pushing individuals to explore the limits of their understanding further. By examining this paradox, we realize the beauty and complexity woven within our expressions. It acts as a reminder that language is not merely a tool for communication. It is a mirror reflecting our thoughts, feelings, and interpretation. Each word carries weight, intent, and meaning. Our relationship with language is dynamic, requiring us to remain attuned to the nuances and implications that arise. As we navigate discussions around self-descriptive and non-self-descriptive terms, we may find that the world of language is filled with paradoxes, contradictions, and infinite possibilities. These elements illustrate how rich and varied our experiences can be when we engage with language on a profound level. Ultimately, contemplating the Grelling-Nelson Paradox can inspire us to appreciate the depth and intricacy inherent in words, sharpening our intellect and expanding our horizons. In conclusion, the Grelling-Nelson Paradox offers a window into the complexities of self-reference and language. It challenges us to think critically about the terms we use and the meanings we assign. This paradox not only enriches our understanding of semantics, but also invites us to explore the harmony between language and the broader universe of ideas. As we ponder this paradox, we can embrace the journey of asking questions, seeking clarity, and appreciating the richness of human thought expressed through language. The paradox of inquiry, as presented in Plato's dialogue Meno, invites us to explore the nature of knowledge and learning through a series of questions and reflections. At its core lies a puzzling dilemma. How can one search for knowledge of something completely unknown? If you have no idea what you are looking for, how can you recognize it once you find it? This paradox raises deep philosophical questions about the process of inquiry itself, and it has intrigued thinkers for centuries. To understand this paradox, let's consider an everyday scenario. Imagine you are trying to find a new restaurant in town. If you have never heard of the restaurant, how would you determine what to look for? If you do not know anything about it, the name, the location, the type of cuisine, where do you begin your search? You might think that one could ask for recommendations or search on the internet. However, even those resources depend on some prior knowledge. You must have some concept of what a restaurant is or what type of dining experience you desire. This goes to show how knowledge is often built upon previous understanding, and the paradox illuminates the complexities involved in gaining new insights. Plato uses Socrates as a vehicle to delve into this inquiry process. He suggests that if one truly knows something, then the search becomes unnecessary. Conversely, if one does not know anything, they cannot initiate the search. However, there is a middle ground that challenges this binary, the idea that people may know things implicitly. In a way, this reflects everyday experiences where we stumble upon knowledge that seems hidden until we discover it. Consider the act of learning to ride a bicycle. At first glance, the concept of balance and motion might seem entirely foreign. Yet, once you start the process, you begin to understand intuitively the mechanics involved. You may not know how to ride when you begin, but you possess the skills to learn through practice. That is where the transformative power of inquiry lies. It often begins with a hint of curiosity rather than clear knowledge. This hinges on the idea that the search itself might uncover deeper understanding. In the dialogues, Socrates introduces the theory of recollection. This theory suggests that the soul remembers knowledge acquired in previous lives, implying that learning is an act of recalling what we already know in a latent form. If we accept this hypothesis, it changes the premise of our inquiry entirely. You are not searching for something wholly unknown. Rather, you are activating knowledge that already resides within you, waiting to be recognized. This concept resonates with numerous educational philosophies today, emphasizing experiential learning and the idea that knowledge is often discovered through living and doing rather than rote memorization. Let us explore another illustrative example. Think about the idea of a perfect vacation. If someone asks you to describe it without any prior thoughts, you might struggle. However, as you begin to think about it, perhaps envisioning sandy beaches, majestic mountains, or cultural cities, you realize that you do have instinctive preferences. The inquiry into what constitutes a perfect vacation allows you to discover your own desires and knowledge regarding travel experience. Instead of merely searching for an answer, you cultivate understanding through the act of engaging with your thoughts. The paradox also highlights the role of questions in the pursuit of knowledge. When we engage in inquiry, we often begin with more questions than answers. Queries give birth to exploration and often lead to unexpected revelations. For instance, an artist may start with a question about color, prompting them to experiment with different pigments, ultimately fueling creativity and unexpected masterpieces. The act of questioning fosters discovery and can lead to a deeper understanding of both the self and the world. This notion of inquiry challenges the linear perception of learning. It proposes a more circular or spiral approach, where initiating an inquiry or questioning oneself can lead to layers of understanding that may not be immediately apparent. Knowledge is not merely a destination to reach. It is a process that evolves and deepens through engagement and exploration. As we reflect on the paradox of inquiry, it becomes evident that the journey of seeking knowledge is rich and nuanced. Rather than being a straightforward path, it is filled with twists and turns. To inquire is to embrace uncertainty and acknowledge that we do not have all the answers. It is within this realm of not knowing that curiosity thrives and understanding flourishes. Ultimately, the exploration of this paradox encourages us to embrace the unknown and remain open to new experiences. Every question posed and every moment spent reflecting contributes to the tapestry of knowledge we weave throughout our lives. So, as you venture through the labyrinth of inquiry, remember that the process of seeking can be as valuable as the knowledge itself. Embrace the journey of discovery and the adventure of asking, for within it lies the essence of growth and understanding. In the end, it is not only what you seek that matters, but also how you think and feel about the journey of knowledge itself. This dynamic interplay fuels our ability to learn, adapt, and ultimately thrive in an ever-changing world. The paradox of self-amendment is a fascinating concept in the field of constitutional law and philosophy, raising important questions about authority, governance, and the essence of legal systems. At its core, this paradox examines whether a legal body can alter the very rules that define its own amendment processes. This question may seem straightforward at first, but it quickly reveals deep and often conflicting principles about power and legitimacy. To understand this paradox, let's consider a few key ideas. Most legal systems operate under predefined rules and principles. These rules dictate how laws can be created, amended, and repealed. In many ways, these rules are akin to the foundational framework of a building. If the foundation is weak or fundamentally flawed, the entire structure may be at risk. Therefore, the question of whether a legal body can change its own foundational rules raises profound implications about stability, continuity, and the rule of law. One primary avenue for exploring this paradox is through the lens of sovereignty and authority. In many democratic systems, power is derived from the people. This principle leads us to the question, who holds the authority to change the amendment procedures? If a legislature, for example, can unilaterally change the way it amends its own rules, does that not undermine the very democratic principles it claims to uphold? On the other hand, if such a body cannot amend its procedures, does it not risk stagnation and an inability to adapt to evolving societal needs? The United States Constitution provides a compelling case study in this respect. The framers established a specific process for amendments, requiring a supermajority in Congress and ratification by the states. This high bar for change reflects an understanding that altering foundational legal principles should not be taken lightly. Historians and legal scholars have long debated whether this supermajority requirement effectively binds future generations and hinders the ability to respond to contemporary issues. This tension is evidenced in various legal challenges and debates over constitutional interpretation. For instance, consider a scenario where a legislative body wishes to simplify its amendment process to encourage responsiveness to public demand. They face a crucial question. Can they legitimately modify the rules governing their own amendment procedures? Some argue this sidesteps the necessity of rigorous debate and consensus, while others advocate for the need to evolve in response to changing societal values. An interesting example can be drawn from international law, where entities like the European Union have also grappled with self-amendment issues. As these bodies grow and evolve, member states may find it necessary to amend existing treaties. This process often necessitates substantial negotiation and consensus among all member states, echoing the delicate balance between unity and individual sovereignty. Yet, the paradox of self-amendment extends beyond mere procedural concerns. It invites deeper philosophical inquiries about the nature of law itself. Is a legal system a static set of rules, or is it a living, breathing framework that must adapt to the realities of human society? This brings to light the idea of legal continuity versus legal change. Proponents of legal continuity may argue that stability is paramount, while advocates for legal change emphasize the importance of adaptability. Moving beyond theoretical implications, real-world examples highlight the consequences of this paradox in action. Consider moments in history when governing bodies have attempted to alter their amendment processes. In some instances, this has led to accusations of overreach and autocracy, as leaders push to consolidate power and undermine institutional checks and balances. In contrast, moments of significant reform have sometimes emerged when legal bodies respond effectively to pressing social issues, suggesting that adaptability can be a key to legitimacy. What, then, is the resolution to such a complex paradox? Perhaps it lies in the recognition that legal systems are inherently dynamic. They exist within a context shaped by societal values, cultural shifts, and historical developments. Therefore, while a legal body may be able to amend its rules, such actions must be approached with caution, respect for democratic principles, and an awareness of the potential ripple effects. Ultimately, navigating the paradox of self-amendment demands a careful balance between preserving the foundational integrity of a legal system and ensuring its ability to evolve. It calls for an ongoing dialogue that encourages introspection and a re-examination of the principles of authority, governance, and legitimacy. As societies continue to change and grow, our understanding of law and its mechanisms must also progress, reflecting the complexities of the human experience while striving to maintain justice and fairness in an ever-shifting landscape. Understanding this delicate balance is essential as we move forward, crafting a legal framework that embodies both continuity and the capacity for progress. The paradox of analysis delves into a fascinating philosophical territory, one that raises questions about language, meaning, and understanding. At its core, this paradox explores the relationship between a subject and the observations or explanations that pertain to it. One of the most well-known expressions of this paradox comes from philosopher G.E. Moore, who articulated his concern about the nature of definitions and analyses of concepts. To start, let us consider what is meant by analysis. Analysis is often understood as breaking down complex concepts into simpler, more understandable parts. For example, think of the analysis of the concept of water. When we analyze water, we might discuss its chemical composition, H2O, and its properties as a liquid, solid, and gassed white. In this way, analysis serves to provide information and clarity, offering deeper insights into what water is and how it behaves. However, the paradox arises when we consider the limits of such analysis. If a definition or an analysis is supposed to inform us, it must also convey the same meaning as the term it seeks to clarify. Using our earlier example, if we define water as H2O, someone might ask, but what is H2O? The answer remains abstract and may not provide additional understanding for someone unfamiliar with chemistry. Thus, the analysis does not expand our grasp of the meaning of water. It simply restates it in a different form. This raises an intriguing question. Can an analysis truly enhance our understanding if it is inherently tied to the meaning it analyzes? How can a statement be both informative and identical in some ways, to what it describes. To illustrate, let us explore another example, the concept of justice. If we analyze justice by saying it is fairness, we might think we have clarified the concept. However, the term fairness itself could be nebulous. Does fairness mean equality? Does it incorporate considerations of circumstance or intention? In offering an analysis, we may inadvertently replace one complex notion with another equally complex one. Philosophers have grappled with this dilemma for centuries. The roots of this paradox lie deeply embedded in the nature of language. Language is a tool we use to communicate, but it is also a flexible entity. Words do not have fixed meanings. Their interpretation can shift based on context, culture, and personal experience. Consequently, our analyses often reflect more about the analyst's perspective than the object of study itself. One observation is that for an analysis to be genuinely informative, it needs to encompass a broader context. Take the analysis of happiness, for instance. If we define happiness simply as the absence of sadness, we have not fully captured the essence of being happy. Instead, we should consider factors such as fulfillment, connection, and contentment. Thus, a deeper and richer analysis may integrate these layers, allowing for a more comprehensive understanding of happiness that moves beyond mere definitions. The paradox can also be viewed through the lens of the relationship between analytic statements and synthetic statements. Analytic statements are true by virtue of their meaning. For instance, all bachelors are unmarried men is analytically true because the definition of bachelor includes being an unmarried man. On the other hand, synthetic statements require external evidence to validate them, such as it is raining outside, which is not true by meaning alone. This dichotomy illustrates that an analysis targeting a defined concept may appear informative at face value, but it may not provide new insights beyond the initial definition. Let's venture into the world of science and consider the way scientific phenomena are analyzed. When we speak about gravity, we might explain it through Newton's laws of motion or Einstein's theory of relativity. Each analytical approach provides layers of understanding, but there remains a fundamental similarity. They both refer to the same underlying force that keeps us grounded to the earth. Here, the paradox becomes even more pronounced, as we realize that while rigorous analysis gives us valuable insights, the essence of gravity remains unchanged. The implications of the paradox of analysis extend into various fields, such as linguistics, cognitive science, and law. In linguistics, researchers examine how meaning is constructed and interpreted, navigating the challenges of semantic ambiguity. In cognitive science, understanding how we analyze and understand concepts can shed light on how our minds work. Moreover, in law, the interpretation of statutes through legal analysis leads to debates about the original intent versus the literal meaning, bringing further complexity to our understanding. At its core, the paradox invites us to be more conscious of how we articulate our thoughts and the inevitable limitations of language. Every attempt to define or analyze carries the potential for both clarity and confusion, showcasing the delicate dance between simplicity and complexity. This paradox compels us to consider not just the definitions we use, but also how we engage with the world around us. In conclusion, the paradox of analysis serves as a reminder that while analysis can provide valuable insights and information, it can also lead us in circles, often revealing more about the intricacies of language and meaning than the underlying concept itself. It teaches us that understanding is a multifaceted journey, one that often requires more than mere definitions, to truly grasp the essence of what we are exploring. With every analysis, we must remain mindful of the complexities of language, context, and interpretation, embracing the rich tapestry of meaning that lies beneath the surface. Imagine a grand event, a lottery drawing where thousands of tickets flutter in anticipation, each a tiny slip of paper holding the dreams and hopes of many. It's a fascinating paradox. Amidst the sea of tickets, each individual ticket possesses a minuscule chance of winning. However, we know that ultimately, among all those tickets, one will claim the grand prize. This paradox leads us to reflect on belief and how we reason about it, especially in the context of probability and chance. Let's begin by considering the mechanics of the lottery. Assume a lottery offers a jackpot, and there are 1 million tickets issued. Each ticket may have an extremely low probability of winning, let's say 1 in a million. This number may seem discouraging to most, and for good reason. After all, the odds are steep. Yet, when we collectively examine all the tickets in the drawing, something curious occurs. We understand that no matter how small the probability of any one ticket winning is, with so many tickets purchased, we can expect there to be a winner. Herein lies the paradox. Alone, any single ticket seems unremarkable, a flimsy piece of paper with little worth. However, in the grand scheme of all entries, the expectation that one ticket will indeed win transforms our perspective. We begin to view belief not just as the personal hope of winning, but as a collective reality. Each ticket purchased joins a chorus of potential, reshaping the narrative from a singular maybe to an assured must be. So, how do we reason about our beliefs within such a framework? When we engage with the concept of probability, we often intuitively grasp it at a personal level. We calculate our odds, perhaps envisioning the exhilarating moment of winning. Yet, our belief must also consider the vast pool of participants. The shared experience of anticipation creates a sense of community. Imagine discussing your ticket with friends, each of you excitedly anticipating the drawing together. This shared belief can magnify your hopes, making the experience less about the odds and more about the adventure. Furthermore, belief can also operate as a psychological comfort. Even though you know the chances are slim, purchasing a ticket may evoke feelings of excitement and optimism. It's not merely a transaction. It is an entrance into the realm of possibility. The thrill of imagining what you would do with your winnings, the house, the car, the travel, can be more significant than the statistical chance of winning. Let's illustrate this with a relatable scenario. Picture a friend who never buys lottery tickets. They often be skeptical and emphasize the odds against winning. Yet, one day, in a moment of whimsy, they decide to buy a ticket solely because of the buzz around town. How does this individual's belief transform? They might start to daydream about the prize, even if just for a fleeting moment. Their belief shifts from indifference to hope. Yes, they recognize their likelihood of winning is low, yet in that moment, the dream feels attainable. This is part of the charm of the lottery. It allows people the luxury of imagination. Additionally, there's an interesting psychological phenomenon related to belief in unlikely events: the gambler's fallacy. People often reason that because many tickets have been purchased, their individual ticket somehow has a better chance due to sheer numbers. This misinterpretation illustrates how belief can mislead, making it essential to understand and reflect on the proper application of logic in probability. To further understand belief and reasoning, we can consider the implications of the lottery ticket paradox in everyday life. For instance, think about the choices we face in various situations that involve risk. Whether it's investing in stocks, applying for a job, or even pursuing a romantic relationship, we often assess situations based on potential outcomes. Like choosing a lottery ticket, we weigh our odds, sometimes influenced by collective beliefs or societal norms. In a stock market scenario, we might analyze a small startup company that has a slim chance of becoming a top player. Yet, some investors are drawn to the idea of being part of something potentially groundbreaking. Here, belief drives not only the decision to invest, but also the understanding that while individual choices may seem unlikely to succeed, the community of investors sharing that belief may very well determine the outcome. In conclusion, the lottery ticket paradox elegantly intertwines with our beliefs and how we approach decision-making in life. It compels us to ponder the balance between statistical reality and the powerful effect of collective hope. Through this lens, we can derive a deeper understanding of our choices, aspirations, and the very nature of belief itself. Just as in the lottery, where we grasp the excitement of possibility against the odds, we continue to navigate the world, blending realism with the enchanting power of imagination. Ultimately, it is this dance between probability and belief that shapes our experiences, making life an exhilarating journey filled with unexpected turns. Imagine you are driving down a familiar road, perhaps the route to your favorite cafe or the path to work. As you navigate through the landscape, your mind wanders. You think about your plans for the day, upcoming events, or maybe even ponder a philosophical question. In this moment, you may be perfectly aware of the surroundings, yet your thoughts distract you, creating what is commonly known as the absent-minded driver paradox. At its core, this paradox highlights the inconsistencies that arise when decision-making is influenced by memory and knowledge. Picture a rational agent who has to make choices based on their understanding of the world. This individual possesses extensive knowledge about navigation, traffic rules, and the best routes to take, yet paradoxically, they might take a wrong turn or miss an exit simply because their mind is elsewhere. Consider a student driving to an important exam. They know the optimal route that avoids traffic, has clear signs, and even has a shortcut that could save them time. However, as they drive, their mind is caught up in thoughts about the exam questions, possible outcomes, or even last-minute revisions. In this distracted state, they could inadvertently take a path that leads them into a traffic jam or misjudge the necessary exits. This brings forth a fascinating question about cognition and awareness. How can we be so knowledgeable, yet make seemingly illogical decisions? This conundrum stems from the interplay between our memories and our present awareness. The brain, while capable of intricate computations and predictions based on historical data, can also fall prey to momentary lapses in focus. Now, let's delve deeper into the implications of this paradox. Imagine a situation involving two friends, Alex and Jamie, who frequently drive together. Both know the city well, yet they often experience conflicting decisions. Alex might remember that taking a scenic route is more enjoyable, while Jamie recalls that the shortcut through downtown is usually faster. As they drive, the discussions become heated. Alex values the memories associated with the scenic drive, filled with fond experiences, while Jamie prioritizes reaching their destination quickly. What constitutes the right decision in this scenario? It can easily become a battle between knowledge and memory. The absent-minded driver paradox illustrates that what we know can sometimes clash with our immediate intentions or memory cues. Both decision-making styles are rational, but led to conflicting choices, demonstrating how deeply personal experiences influence our paths and decisions. Let's take another example involving technology. An individual regularly uses navigation apps that provide real-time updates. They have learned to trust these tools implicitly. One day, however, while driving to an important meeting, they feel confident and ignore the app's suggestion to take a different route due to traffic. Their previous experiences have instilled a belief that they can navigate better than the app. Yet, despite their irrational thoughts, their choice might not lead them to their intended outcome, confirming the absent-minded driver paradox once again. An intriguing aspect of decision-making involves the concept of automaticity, where actions become so routine that they require little conscious effort. This is evident when someone drives while engaging in another task, like listening to a podcast or having a conversation. Although they possess the knowledge to navigate streets safely, their attention is split, leading to potential errors. The brain processes the act of driving on autopilot, yet simultaneously, valuable cognitive resources are diverted. Research in psychology has examined how memory plays a crucial role in decision-making. For instance, an individual may recall a time when they took a specific route and faced roadblocks, which can inform their choices in future travels. Still, when absorbed in thoughts or discussions, these memories can fade, and the driver may neglect to consider past experiences. Ultimately, the choices they make become paradoxical. The absent-minded driver paradox also serves as a reminder of the human condition itself, the struggle between knowledge and the ephemeral nature of thought. Each moment brings distractions that can derail even the most rational decision-maker. It challenges us to consider how our cognitive load impacts our daily choices and illustrates the inherent complexities of human behavior. As you ponder these scenarios, reflect on your own experiences. Think of times when your mind drifted while driving, leading you to unexpected places. Perhaps you discovered a new cafe, met an old friend by chance, or found joy in a peaceful route. These moments highlight how the absent-minded driver paradox can influence our journeys through life, reminding us that the paths we take are often shaped by more than just knowledge and rational choice. In essence, the absent-minded driver paradox encapsulates the beautiful yet tumultuous relationship between memory, knowledge, and decision-making. It reveals that even the most rational agents are subject to the whims of their thoughts, forcing us to embrace the unpredictability of our minds as we navigate through life's roads. Each choice reflects our unique history, shaping our paths in ways that are at once intricate and strangely logical.